This week on the Steam Machine Podcast, if you are looking for spooks and scares, then this Khajiit has your wares. Cue the music!
I wish to create a perfect human being, selecting the best organs from different corpses. Nosferatu, the medieval vampire in the remote regions of Transylvania.
5 innocent people killed, not a sign of a human. 5 innocent people killed, not a sign of a human.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. Murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers. The fool can be killed by a shot in the head or a heavy blow to the skull. In all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murder. Repeating this, in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another spooky edition of the Steam Machine Podcast. My name is Count Dalton, and this week joining me is one half of the Destructo Bros.
'Tis I, Count Willie von Destructo, and I have brought with me my monster!
We may have felt a touch of remorse for sending our friend away to the bottom of the ocean via Cinderblock. So we went, we got him up, we used some of our necromantic power, and we have brought back from the dead the other half of the Destructo Bros.
Can't be bad, must be good, must be good. Must be good to see my fat ass again. What's up, boys?
What's
Yo,
going on, brother?
how's it going,
It's
Nito?
Dane. What's going on, y'all?
How you doing, my good sir?
Good to hear from you, bro.
I'm good. Obviously, I just watched Heavyweights again recently because I made that joke that I've ripped directly from Heavyweights, so...
What a
See
great
more
movie.
butts. Nobody's seen more butts than you.
That's right, Uncle Tony.
I haven't seen that movie in forever. I remember Ben Stiller being a very good villain in that movie.
Oh, he's incredible. It's the exact same character he plays in Dodgeball, but it's still incredible.
I was literally gonna say that, yeah. He literally just takes that character into Dodgeball and it works awesome.
Hell yeah.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody. I had a guy say that to me once, and all the first thing that popped into my head was Dodgeball, and I immediately could never take that guy seriously again. But I had punched him, and he's like, "You're the first person to ever make me taste my own blood." Cool story, bro. Like, yeah. What you been up to, man?
Man, it's been a while since I've been on the show, so obviously there's been a lot going on, but, between work and all that kind of stuff. But I think the most fun things that have happened lately has been, my birthday was last week or around there.
Whoop, whoop.
So I got to have some good times. We had some friends fly in from Denver, come hang out for a while. So went to this really cool bowling alley in Nashville that's like very retro themed. It was just like really cool place. It had like arcade games and just like, it felt like it was out of like the 70s kind of era. And apparently they have like the light and it's at night and stuff kind of thing. But we went at like around 4 p.m. So it was just more of like just classic retro. It was a lot of fun. And like I hadn't been bowling in years, like at least like half a decade at this point. So I'm like, man, if I bowl 100, I'm going to be real happy right now. So ended up bowling 105 on my first game we played. So
boy.
I was pretty pleased
That's
with myself because, I was like, man, I used to bowl quite a bit. Like I was never great, but I could bowl like a 180 or whatever. And so
That's better than my best score. I think I got like 150 something in my best bowling game of all time.
Yeah.
And like you, I literally, if I just show up to bowling with friends, I'm like, let me just try to get 100. Because that means I didn't leave every frame open.
Exactly. That's my whole goal is just like, please. And I got through a couple of gutter balls too because it'd been so long. I was like, oh god, I got to figure out where my spot is again and all of that.
Because I don't know how to curve a ball in real life. Like when I play bowling games in video games, I play it left-handed. I do a big old spin and shit. In real life, I play right-handed and I just wob the shit.
Bro, I remember the last time I went bowling. For one, there's this place in Palatka, and Palatka is... Nate, you've been to St. Augustine. Palatka is between where I live and St. Augustine. Like, I have to drive through there to get to St. Augustine. There is a bowling alley there that I have not seen a car at other than like two cars that I think are the owner and the person that works there for ages. Every time I drive by, now granted, I drive by in the middle of the afternoon, but I don't ever see anybody there. I'm almost convinced it's money laundering somehow.
Oh yeah.
Right? Kind of like
there was definitely an
stores.
Italian restaurant in Evansville had that exact same vibe about. Right? I went there like several times. I was me and my girlfriend at the time were the only people there, and it was just like, yeah, if this isn't a mob front, that's too bad because this place is delicious.
Dude, Ryan has a place up by him. That's an Italian. He said that's an Italian restaurant that you never see anybody at, but you always see really nice, fancy cars pull in and out of there. He goes, there's something very fishy going on about that. And he's like, I don't ask questions though. I was like, probably smart. But
I don't ask questions. I just want me some fettuccine. I want some scampi.
I went bowling with these people, and I remember being up front, like, I am not good at bowling. I am okay at best. I am not good. First time I threw the ball, I got a strike, and they thought I was trying to shark them. And I'm like, that was a fluke, I swear. And yeah, it proved to be a fluke. Luckily, I didn't feel like getting the bowling people mad at me. But I was just like, listen, I didn't mean to do that.
They were going to take you back behind the bowling alley with a 14-pound ball, and you were about to find it in your skull.
Yeah, right? Suddenly, the ball returned, just my head comes rolling up.
Dude, that would be a great shot for like an 80s horror movie. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it really.
Dude, can you imagine like old school Peter Jackson pulling that shit? Like Dead Alive Peter Jackson, not Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson?
Like, before he liked walking?
Yeah. Walk.
I think even though you guys know I love the Lord of the Rings movies, I think the best description of them ever was in Clerks 2 when Dante is arguing, or not Dante, excuse me, Randall is arguing with Elias, and he goes, here's how the first movie goes, and he just walks across the front of the store, and he goes, here's the second one, and he walks a little bit, and he stops, and he fumbles, and he walks around something, and he walks, and he goes, here's the third movie, and he walks, and he pretends to drop something, and then just shrugs his shoulders and turns around and walks away. And they're like, Star Wars nerd. He's like, there's only one return, and it ain't of the king, it's of the Jedi. It's a great scene.
What about the Revenge of the Sith?
He ends up hitting him with like such gross nerd shit that the nerdy guy talking about Lord of the Rings ends up just like vomiting. It's the strangest thing. He just gets so upset. You mother. Anyways, you went bowling. How, was it fun?
Yeah, dude, it was a great time. Like, these are some of Kayla's best friends. Like so it was nice to see them, have them come into town, and we just had a really good time. And then so we did that like on a Thursday afternoon. Like, so I took off work on like a half day just to go hang out and do that. And then on Saturday we got together again, and we ended up going to the zoo, which was a really good time. Like, got to see all their animals. Got a good picture of me really close to their Galapagos tortoises, and then got to see their... And you know, the thing that really surprised me was, because like I'd been to the Jacksonville Zoo earlier this year and got to hang out and look at all their herpetology, whatever you call it. What do you call the place where they keep all the lizards? I know it's like...
Herpetarium, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. So like, I was really surprised that the Nashville Zoo actually had a much bigger herpetarium than the Jacksonville Zoo. You'd think, being in Florida, they'd have more, but...
They have a lot of snakes at the Jacksonville Zoo. But like, as far as lizards and stuff, yeah, there's not nearly as many. There's a couple cool frogs.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But
yeah, I was going to say we have the poison dart frog at the herpetarium in Louisville, and I love that fucker.
Yeah,
they're pretty. They're very pretty.
Yeah, there's like several different kinds of those, and they're all just absolutely gorgeous animals.
So colorful.
Isn't it amazing that like a lot of the things in nature that are beautiful will fuck you up?
But
well, that's the whole idea too. Is if you can detect it and you see it, that's a warning sign.
Yeah.
Like things that you should eat are trying to hide. Things you shouldn't eat are like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah, but the funny thing about like poison dart frogs, and here comes my form of autism and nerdiness coming through, is they're not, if they are fed a just regular diet, like at a zoo or in a home, because like people keep them at their own homes, they are not poisonous at all. It all has to do with what they eat. So like the types of bugs that they eat, they take in like they're kind of like hormones and chemicals and convert that into a poison that then goes back onto their body. Like, it's really interesting because like even scientists are still trying to figure out how they're able to ingest all these horribly, horribly toxic and poisonous bugs that would kill you if you touched one, and then convert that into their own poison. It's like a really...
and then become the super poison god.
And the thing is it does. It actually amplifies the poison. Like, the frogs are more poisonous than the bugs they eat, but they get the poison from the bugs they eat.
That's so sick, dude. Nature's amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, that
Dude,
was...
I would love
No, that's so cool. Don't apologize. It's the coolest shit.
do like a D&D campaign where you guys stumble into a like a swampy area, and the frog people that are there are actually like poison dart frog. So like they just like you can't touch them. If you're in battle, you cannot touch them or you will get poisoned. I think that would be a cool mechanic.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, so like anytime you see a poison dart frog in somebody's personal collection, and I think even at the zoos, they are completely not poisonous because of the diet that we feed them in captivity. So just pretty interesting shit.
So they just get to be pretty, not deadly.
Yep. They're
opinion.
definitely not silent either, because those frogs, as tiny as they are, they make a lot of noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, it's like the Jacksonville Zoo. Like, okay, so the zoo you went to, I'm assuming they had the snake area.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have like the anaconda?
Yeah.
Like those things are terrifying.
Oh god, yes, dude.
Like, I know, like, growing up, I saw the movie, and obviously that was exaggerated. But, like, the fact that there are snakes out there that can get almost that big, you know, maybe not movie big, but, like, and they just...
Still, like, 20 foot of snake is scary enough when it's all just one wiggly muscle. It's like the same as your tongue, where it's just like a muscle that you can bonelessly move around.
Yeah, and it's, you know, yay big around, like the size of a nice sized melon.
Yeah.
And it's just swimming around in the Amazon.
Just chilling,
Fuck
waiting.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
If
bro.
you think those are scary, you should look up the Titanoboa, which was an ancient species of basically boa constrictor. It's basically the megalodon snakes.
Yeah, I'm looking this up right now. Titanoboa. Yep, found it. Whoa.
Yeah, those things were freaking massive. And then I know there were like massive like crocodilians back in the day too.
Yeah, they're in Jurassic World Evolution 2. The giant crocodile monsters, dude. So one of the DLCs that I got for that game was the underwater stuff, because I specifically wanted all of those creatures.
Yeah.
And I went into sandbox mode and just built a big open water thing and just put them all in there. And yeah, some of those things are terrifyingly large.
Oh yeah.
Even in the video game, you're just looking at them and you're like, okay, I can imagine how big the people are in the game.
Yeah.
And then how big that thing is. Oh my God.
Yeah, so a lot of the Wikipedia diagrams have like images of the character with a person like waving for scale. The image of the Titanoboa cerrigonensis, you could fit. This guy could lead like 7 of him and just still be chilling.
Yeah, dude. Nature crazy.
No, thank you.
Yeah. But like one of my favorite ones that I got to see at the zoo, and he had like so much personality. So, like I love lizards and frogs and turtles and all that stuff, obviously. But like I've never seen one of these guys before in real life, but they're called caiman lizards. They're just really cool, like semi-aquatic lizard species, like semi-arboreal, semi-aquatic. Spends half its time in the tree, half its time in the water. They're really freaking cool. And like this guy was just chilling in the trees and just stomping through, called a caiman lizard. They don't look like caimans, but they're so freaking gorgeous. They're like this green lizard that had this big red head. They're like really cool looking.
You said caiman, I assumed like the crocodilian.
Yeah, it looks nothing like a caiman. I don't know why it's called a caiman. It's probably from the Cayman Islands or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I think I told this.
It's called that because it came in your mom last night.
Jesus Christ. And after he was done, he was like, "See you later, alligator."
Oh, Lord.
Oh man, I think I told this story, but I'm gonna tell it again quickly. When Diana and I went to the alligator farm in St. Augustine, and we came up on the caimans, and there were 2 of them there, and all of a sudden, one submerged under the water, and the other one swam over to it, and we sat there for like 5 minutes and watched the process of nature occur.
Nice.
These two caiman were getting it on, and we laughed and laughed, and then we walked off. And we ended up...
And then you did it Cayman style.
we walked over to the
get
gators.
That cold-blooded shit.
So, Nate, you'll know this. There's a entire section that's just like a big deck that you walk out on, like a big walkway, and you're just over water with gators everywhere.
Yep.
And there was this one little cove where we just walked over there, and suddenly 2 of the gators started mating, and about 6 other gators started courting one another. And we were like, it must be that time. So we started
looking. Shut up for Gator Prom.
So we're looking up in the trees, and all of the trees are full of nests with little baby birds because they had all hatched. And I was like, oh my God, it's freaking adorable. So we're still walking around, and we get to the lemurs, and a red-tailed lemur, like none of them are out, right? And then this red-tailed lemur just comes out, gives a big stretch, walks over to the side, bends his ass over the edge, and just takes a huge rainbow-colored shit. And we were like,
oh, so yeah.
I don't know if I got a video of it or not, but I remember I was videoing him, and as soon as I stopped, he just blasted out a huge dump. And then like one of his buddies come out and just like also takes a shit. And I was like, oh, is this just poop time? There's just lemurs just shitting all over the place. What is going on here?
Dude, that's why I love like zoos and things like that. You just never know what goofy shit you're gonna see.
Yeah, dude, I love it.
Yeah,
and they have a bunch of orangutans that are like in this area. Of course, there's like a big gap between where they hang out and then the barrier to get to the people. But like, dude, it is amazing to me those monkeys can just like swing, catch themselves with one arm, pull themselves up, get onto something else, and then just hang there by one arm, and then they're just chilling. Like, they're strong enough. Their body weight ain't shit to them. You know what I mean? And how quickly they can make their way across something that's just a bunch of ropes and limbs and stuff. And they can just...
Dude, all the other great apes, like, there's a reason we invented guns, because otherwise they would rule us.
No, dude, because, like, look at the size of a chimp versus the size of you. Like, you are so much bigger than a chimp. Like, you would think...
But every muscle's packed, like, 3 times
I know,
the
like,
strength.
just looking like, you could work out your entire fucking life, be the buffest dude on the planet, look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, lift like half Thor Bjornsson, and a chimpanzee's still gonna fucking tear you apart.
Yeah, it's like... Yeah. I would, Brock Lesnar, as tough and big as he is going to get his head just twisted off by a primate.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he's not getting his head twisted off. He's going to get his face peeled off, eaten, and then his nutsack pulled off delicately. Like, because they go for the rough bits. They do not play fair. They have no sense of sports.
And these are things that chimpanzees have been known to do, like rip off people's faces and go for the groin. Like, this is what they do.
I'm not just making goofs. This is what they do.
No, monkeys, like, people love monkeys, like, they're adorable. And I know, like, you get on to me, apes and monkeys are different, but whatever. No, they're fucking terrifying. Like, I am more scared of a chimpanzee than I ever will be of a lion, than I ever will be of an alligator. Like, just facts.
Yeah, because if you piss off a chimp hard enough, it's probably thinking revenge, and it will get it.
Like, a lion's just going to bite you by the back of the neck and kill you as fast as possible and then eat you. No, a chimpanzee's going to torture you. It's going to be worse than being in hostel. Like...
I will say, gators, you're probably going to drown as you bleed out, which is going to suck dick. But
it's not. It's way better.
You could avoid them if you just stay out of swamps and tea-colored water.
Yeah.
Like, I live around a bunch of lakes, dude. I don't fucking swim in any of them. Nah, bro. Like, when I was a kid, that shit didn't bother me until I had an alligator surface while I was swimming.
Oh,
and he's
Lord.
like within a distance away from me. I learned how to walk on water like Jesus that day. I got back to the shore so goddamn fast, and I ran up the beach and went and sat in the picnic tables that were a good, 200 feet away from the water. I was like, never again.
It's so funny because, like, I grew up in Kentucky and we'd go swim in lakes all the time. And, like, I remember going to, like, a lake with my wife one time. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting in that. And I'm like, why? I'm from Florida. I don't know what the fuck's in there.
Like, dude, my buddies used to take me out on the boat and they would want to do the, like, ride the raft and stuff. And they would, like, of course, like, oh, let's see if we can throw them off. So, like, they would throw me off. And I'd be sitting there floating, waiting for him to come back. And that is some of the most scared I've ever been in my entire life, just sitting there floating in the middle of a lake. Because that'd be a long swim in any direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's why I don't watch those open water movies where the people just get stranded out in the ocean. Not for me.
Nah.
No thanks.
No, dude, like, there's 2 things that really terrify me. It's the open ocean and outer space. Those are 2 places I do not want to be.
Dude, the sense of scale, just the vastness is terrifying. Like, I don't think it's actually space or the ocean itself that scares me. It's how big shit is. Like, if I sit here and think about how big Jupiter is for a minute, and imagine being close to Jupiter, I will literally have a panic attack.
Dude, it's not even just that, too. It's like, if you were out in space and your spacecraft stops working, stops functioning, and you have a limited supply of oxygen, there's no way anybody's going to be able to help you. You're fucked.
It's like iron lung, but instead of down, you go up.
Yeah. And then who knows what directions there are in space? Is there up? Is there down? Is there left? Is there right? I don't know. I'm just going to die. Like, right? I know they're talking about, like, space tourism and stuff being a thing to stay. Like, no, I'm staying here on the ground, my feet planted. I don't care what's happening. I'm not leaving this fucking planet. That's too scary.
Nate, I'll go with you. We can leave space. We can leave Earth together.
No, I'm staying. You can go. Bye.
I think even if I was immortal,
I'm just saying. I will hang out with you, and if we die together the same horrible way.
If I was immortal, I think I'd even stay here. Like, no, I think I'm going to see how it plays out.
But just get eaten by the sun when it goes super red giant.
Yeah, why not?
I mean,
yeah, because you get a good tan, I guess.
I'll smell good right there at the end.
nice and crispy.
Finally, because you smell like ass right now.
Seared, just delicious.
Somebody's grilling barbecue today. Get that rack of ribs going.
Damn, smells like sweet pork. What is this?
Speaking of space, I forgot I was wearing this.
No sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Oh, yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah. Oh,
Nate,
man.
what are you wearing?
That's my Macho Man.
That is Macho Man.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Macho
Good
Man.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's about what I've been up to. I like how that ended up being animal talk and things we were just utterly terrified of talk. Good for Halloween. So
Yeah, say spooks.
yeah. So what have you boys been up to?
Yeah, Willie, what have you been up to the last 2 days?
I played more Planet Crafters. Nate got that for me like 2 days ago, and I've already played 15 hours of it. I have a blue sky on my planet. It rains, and now moss is starting to grow. We haven't finished building moss yet, but there's like a lake where the original crash was. And, there's moss there's like green on the planet where I didn't put it. It's beautiful, and I love it. This game rules.
That's what's up. And quickly, speaking of purchases, this is something I meant to ask Nate in his section and forgot. That game that I saw you get a +1 for in Backlog Golf looks a hell of a lot like Brawlhalla. Is that like the style of game it is?
Yeah, so it's called...
It is a platform
it's
fighter.
called Rivals of Aether 2. I know it's very heavily inspired by Super Smash Bros. Melee. So, people still play Melee to this day. The GameCube game say it's the best platform fighter of all time. So it's really heavily inspired by that. So, yes, to answer your question, it is a little bit like Brawlhalla because they're platform fighters. I think this one is going to be a lot more mechanically heavy, like a lot more different mechanics and a lot more complicated. Like, it's going to be like a Smash Brothers game more than Brawlhalla-ish, but
okay.
I'm looking forward to playing it because, I got the first one really late into its life cycle and dabbled around with it just a tiny bit. It's really freaking cool, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this one's like. I think it's going to be one of the ones that has the potential to have a longer life cycle, unlike something like, what was the Warner Brothers one called? Multiverses?
Yeah, Multiverses.
Yeah.
Or the Nickelodeon Brawl or whatever.
Yeah, I think those kind of had issues where they didn't want to live as long. I think they had some... I don't know. People just didn't seem to be as into this. I think this one has more sustainable hype around it that I think will last a little bit longer. So we'll see what happens with it. But I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to give it a shot probably tonight or tomorrow and see what it's like. But I'll report back to you at some point on that.
All right, yeah. I had seen that and I looked it up and it looked interesting to me, so I was just curious.
Yeah, I haven't touched it yet, but like I said, once I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Willie, you all right over there?
Yeah, my internet dropped for a bit there, but I think Nate probably was going to say we're going to play that a little bit tonight, maybe, and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
Sorry, my internet completely went down when Nate was talking about Rivals 2, but we're really excited to play this game. It feels like they've really got the Smash style. Like, Rivals 1 did not have shielding, for instance. They're going with shielding this time, so it's going to have the whole paper rock scissors system of, shields, grabs, and attacks. Which a lot of the 2D platform fighters like Brawlhalla do not do. They just go for pure spacing. So we'll see how this one feels. I have a really, really good feeling about this one.
Well, that's what's up.
Also, you mentioned the connection to Brawlhalla. I don't know if Nate brought this up, but there actually were crossovers between Rival 1 and Brawlhalla. Rivals 1 had the character Ragnir as a skin for Maple, a character in Rivals. And then the Rivals character Rano is available as a skin for Wu Shang in Brawlhalla. Rano's the frog guy.
Yeah.
It's nice to see synergy.
I know Nate loves a frog guy.
I do love frog guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fucking Mike Bedsoul, who Metagame Mike, he's big on Twitter and all that. He also did a lot of Game Grumps animations back in the day. He works on Brawlhalla, does a lot of the character designs, and he's over there pimping out Rivals 2 because he's excited as fuck to see a good game in that genre show up.
Oh yeah, another interesting thing about Rivals 2, and I don't want to get this wrong, but one of the big YouTubers put a lot of money, I think it's his studio's first game publishing. I think it's Ludwig on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
I think it's his studio, the first game that they're publishing.
Ludwig, for people who are not familiar, he's kind of all over the place on YouTube. I mainly know him because I think he was the first champion of the PogChamps chess tournament.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Question. Why did the internet adapt Pog? Like, what does that stand for? Because when I think of Pogs, I think of Pogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from.
Nobody knows. The phrase PogChamp is where it comes from. But we don't know where PogChamp comes from.
Was it like player of
it's just
games?
It was an image of this guy going like a really excited face. And then like that face just became a meme. But we don't know. I don't know if the guy was named like Pog, like if it was like Jeremy S. Poggers or like Schwan Pog Joe or whatever.
I got you. I was just curious.
It is a mystery.
But yeah, when we say we're pogging, we just mean we're going like, oh, like jaw drop, happy face.
So what
like
else
it's
you been
no
up to,
relation to the Pog game.
What else you been up to, my brother?
Willie? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you. You were the one. Yeah, it was your section.
I didn't realize it was my section. Like I said, I lost the internet for a little bit, so I was just chatting about Rivals with Nate. Me and Nate played a lot of Brawlhalla recently. I just finally played. We ran into a pro. We ran into a pro yesterday, Nate. Meg D. He has no championships, but he's a constant medal winner. He has like 9 medals in major tournaments. I think he's like 9th place in 2s and 11th place in 1s. And we just randomly ran into him. Just this Canadian great player.
Kicked our ass, but, it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he spanked us, but... that's what's so funny about ranked or unranked games is sometimes you just like... Suddenly it's like, hey, it's you versus God.
Like a JRPG.
Yeah.
Only the gods feel a lot less beatable when you're playing against them in a fighting game. It was like fighting Crislin, but better.
Oh, fuck that guy.
It was dope. I mean, it was just cool to run into that guy, and I don't know, man. Like, all the Brawlhalla pros seem pretty chill. It's also one of those games where, like, the people that play it are kind of young. Like, I think all the professionals are, like, between the ages of, like, 14 and 25 or so.
Wow. To be a professional with something that young.
Right.
Other than masturbation, because that's what I was good at that age.
Girl, same.
You went pro at it?
I mean, I would like to think so. I got a lot of man hours.
A lot of mayonnaise hours.
Yeah. So I guess that just leaves me. So I've been, playing some more Final Fantasy 11, but I talked about a lot on that on the last episode. I did today, just for shits and giggles, install Plague Inc. because I hadn't thought about that game in forever. And a video that I was watching had mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, forgot about that game. So I created the TSMP1 virus, and it did not kill the Earth. Bacteria. TSMP2 bacteria. It did not kill the Earth. TSMP3 bacteria. I killed everybody, which unlocked virus. So I made the DJMD virus, and DJMD1 killed the entire planet. It was about everybody was just taking meaty dumps, and it was spreading like wildfire. I love the message that you get when you have your thing that causes irritable bowels and people shitting themselves and insanity, because people just start going crazy and shitting everywhere in the street, and they tell you in a message, they're like, everybody's just pooping in the street, everyone's like just defecating in the street because they're crazy.
Everybody's pooping in the streets now.
We're pooping in the street in New York City, shitting in the street.
To the street.
But it's still just like super homoerotic David Bowie and Mick Jagger singing it.
Oh yeah, that video is amazing. If you haven't seen that, by the way, the Dancing in the Street cover by David Bowie and Mick Jagger, where they are burning with bisexual energy for one another.
We were talking about Family Guy earlier. That's one of those Family Guy jokes that they just drop and let it keep going. They play the entire music video to that song in one of their episodes. Like, they make a reference to it and they cut to it and it plays the whole thing. It's tremendous. And yeah, there's a video on YouTube of that music video with all of the music and stuff taken out, and it's just them, and you can hear them like the shuffling and the dancing that they're doing, and they're kind of mouthing each other and kind of whispering the lyrics and stuff, doing the it's an interesting watch for sure. But yeah, man, other than that, not really a lot going on, man. I've been trying to watch some spooky stuff on YouTube, watching, tonight I think I'm gonna put on a couple horror movies. I think I still have access to Shudder. If not, I guess I'll be browsing Netflix. But last time I did that's when I found that Haunted Asylum movie that I ended up showing to Dave, and we both liked it a lot. because it was like Phasmophobia, but a movie.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I figured you two didn't have a whole lot to go on in this episode since you literally recorded 2 days ago where I accidentally made a guest appearance, but...
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Nate just pinged in. I'm sure we talked about it on the episode, but Nate just popped in. It was funny. Because he thought that we were just warming up for the show because we were in general chat instead of recording chat. I honestly, I on one hand, I blame Mikhailov for that, but on the other hand, I blame, like, everyone else for not showing up and being like, hey, you're streaming, yeah. Because then we would have gone to recording. So.
I just blame Dane. You know, it's just the easy way to go.
I blame Jeff.
I blame God.
And his huge balls.
I blame God.
Blame God or yourself. That's Final Fantasy Tactics.
What is a man but a miserable pile of gods?
Yo, man, the fucking Castlevania DLC in Dead Cells is so sick, too.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't played Dead Cells, so...
As you can imagine, obviously, the final boss in the Castlevania route is Dracula, and he's based on the Symphony of the Night version.
Yeah, Dalton, I think you would absolutely hate Dead Cells, personally. Like, it's a fucking fantastic video game, but it's Metroidvania coded and very difficult. Like, it's all the things that you don't love.
Also, I was a little annoyed that Mikhailov compared Dungeon Munchies to Dead Cells, because there is nothing in common with the feel of the combat. Dead Cells has very tight combat. Dungeon Munchies had very loose combat.
I think he was just saying it's a pixel platformer with action combat.
Yeah, I just think he didn't have enough references.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Hollow Knight for what it was, but that's also, I guess, a kind of a different style game.
Yeah.
A little more RPG.
Yeah, but I mean, this one's more, it's roguelike as well. It's basically a roguelike Metroidvania with Dark Souls elements. Like, if you hear those phrases and you're like, that sounds like my shit, it is. And if you hear that phrase and say, that sounds like garbage, it won't be for you.
I think I got it for free somewhere. Oh. So, like, I think I own it on some platform or another. I think I got it either from Twitch or, you know, Epic. Like, one of those I think I have Dead Cells. So, I mean, if it ever comes up, I'll try it. Game. I'm not going to promise that I'm going to be the one who's happy to play it on the episode and talk and be like, yeah, this game was fucking awesome, but I'll play it.
Hell yeah.
And speaking of playing things, boys, we played some spooky games. And up first, we have Pager, the demo.
Pager.
So, Pager, I'm going to say right off the bat, I'll give my first impressions of this. I loaded into it and was like, this looks awesome. Mm-hmm. I really like that 1-bit look. It made me want to go check out World of Horror.
Oh my god, we really should do World of Horror. Holy shit. Yeah, I would love to play World of Horror. If you're not familiar, it's a very Japanese, very Cthulhu-ish type game.
Very heavily
and it also has like that early Macintosh 1-bit style.
Okay.
Heavily inspired by Junji Ito and things like that.
Junji Ito too, yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with I agree, Dalton. Like, when I loaded it, I was like, wow, this looks really cool. Like, it just looked really cool. Like, that was my first impression.
That was the reason I sent it to y'all. I clicked it and I'm like, oh, it just goes right into the demo. And I'm like, oh shit, this is dope looking. I love this art style immediately. And the crazy thing is, the guy that did it in an engine that is made for 2D games. Oh. Like, this isn't a Unity game. This is it's made in... I can't remember what it was, but if you read the comments on the itch.io page, he's like, or the artist, I don't know if it's a he, but the artist is like, yeah, this game, I had to work really hard on it because it's not made for this.
Well, he did a good job, or they did a good job, and as for being a demo, there's only 10 floors, so it's very, very short. But the concepts in it, I think I would like to see fleshed out into something more, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this game wasn't so much of a game or a demo, but more just a concept. Like, I didn't really feel like it went anywhere.
It felt like a pitch.
Yeah.
It felt like a pitch.
It felt like an elevator pitch for a game, for sure. Like, I didn't feel like it did much with what it created. I felt like what it created was really cool, but I don't think it did hardly anything with what it created, if I'm being completely honest.
No, it had...
I agree.
In my opinion, it had like 2 moments. Right? There's the one where it tells you to go right in the corridor.
Yeah.
So then you go right in the corridor, and then it tells you went the wrong way, and you look back in your pager, and it tells you to go left. Mm-hmm. And you're like...
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that one really got me, and it made me like question things. Like, I think it did a really good job of making me question, because after that, I was like paying way too much attention to the wrong thing. Like, it did a great job with the misdirect on that moment.
And the other moment, which brought me back to another game that we played, I don't remember the name of the game, but it was the one where you could eat your shrimp.
Oh,
and you were walking around your apartment, and then it was like figure out what to do with the guy in the closet.
Static Speaks My Name.
Yeah, the Static Speaks My Name. That one. It gave me that vibes when you just walk into that room and there's a pistol laying there, and you get the thing on your pager that says, "You know what to do."
You know what to do.
So I picked it up and I'm thinking, oh, okay, is this going to be a game where suicide is the ending of it? You know what I mean? And then you walk into the next room and there's like, what, 6 people, 8 people just on their knees with their hands behind their head. And I immediately was like, taken to that scene. Okay, so in Skyrim, if you guys haven't done the Dark Brotherhood quest line, when you kill the chick and start it, you get captured by Astrid and she brings you into this cabin. And she's like, you took a Dark Brotherhood contract, and you're not a member of the Dark Brotherhood, so now you have to make it up in blood. There are 3 people here. One of them have a contract on their head. You have to decide which one to kill. And you turn around, and there are 3 people on the ground, bound with their hands behind their back on their knees, with bags over their head. And you can talk to each of them. Now, you could be like me. I put an arrow in all 3 of their heads and call it a day. It's like 3 possible contracts, 3 dead bodies, right? But in this game, I halted. I'm like, I bet you're not supposed to shoot them. So I started going and checking the doors. And then one of the doors opened up and there was a recycling bin, one for recycling, one for fish, and one for guns. And I dropped it in there and it was like, good job.
See, on the other hand, I went ahead and took the gun and I was like, yeah, I'm shooting one of these guys right now.
I did what they did.
The pager, when you do try to go to that, the pager sounds like, whoa, we don't shoot people on this floor. Take the gun to the recycling bin.
Yeah, so at the end of the game, in that last level you get, there's a door you can open, and then there are 10 doors where you can go back and play the levels, right? So I went back to door number 1 and played through the game again. And when I got back to that scene, I pulled the gun, and I tried to shoot one of them. And it said, whoa, 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 we don't kill on this floor. And that stuck out to me. We don't kill on this floor.
Yeah.
And then you go and recycle the gun, and then nothing really changes again after that. But like, there are little things that are implanted in the dialogue that I'm like, this could be fleshed out into something really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game, like, there's a lot of mood. There's a lot of vibe. This is a vibes game, I feel like. And it does the vibes good. What happens doesn't necessarily make sense, but the vibes are tight.
In a game like this, I don't think it has to make sense. But
yeah,
the thing that really stood out to me is like, it's a horror type game, but there wasn't really much to scare me in this. Like, I never got that sense of unease. Like, it didn't have like a backrooms feel. It didn't have anything like that, except for maybe at the very beginning with the left-right piece. But like, I didn't really. After that, that was like probably the highlight of the entire game. Sadly,
yeah. Unfortunately, the next floor is just straight up a puzzle, and I felt like after that, I approached the game as a puzzle game.
Yeah.
That So I meant to do this earlier, so oops on me. There are no O-dubs for these, but there are about the games on the itch pages. So Pager is described as a 1-bit 3D Kafka-esque horror game set in the 90s office building.
Kafka-esque is an interesting word for it. I like that.
Yeah, it's a very weirdly spelled word, Kafka-esque. but
Well, it's talking about, the Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka.
But yeah, just interesting that like you're just supposed to. I also got a Stanley Parable vibe where you're supposed to obey the narrator.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely, totally.
So yeah, I would like to see.
But unlike Stanley Parable, it's like I didn't feel like I had the option to like try to like refute it, see what would happen. In this game, I felt like I just needed to follow the golden path.
Yeah, I think there was only the golden path.
Yeah.
For now, he might add more to it.
But I thought it was interesting. I really liked the art style. I liked the vibe. Again, this one's all vibes.
You want to give it a... Do we give these ratings?
Yeah, we do.
I don't remember.
Okay. We usually do, but the ratings are like considered a different scale than the usual 10-point scale. We just give them out of 10. For me, if I give you a 7 out of 10, it means I had a good time. If I give you more than a 7, that means I thought you were extensively awesome. And if I give you less than 7, there's some work to be done. This is my exact 7.
Yeah, I was gonna give this a run-of-the-mill 7 too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of promise, but unfortunately, this is a demo too. So the full Steam game, I think, is coming out soon.
For me, I'm being a little bit more of an asshole than you guys on this episode, apparently.
That's
but
fine.
like, for me, this was a horror, listed as a horror game that gave absolutely zero horror. I loved what it did conceptually and what it was trying to do, and I know it's a demo that needs to be fleshed out, but where it stands today, I have to give this a very baseline 5 out of 10.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, I think that's also fair. I think the art style really.
I don't feel like I wasted my time. I really enjoyed the art style. I enjoyed it vibes. I'm giving it a 7 on vibes alone because story-wise it was lacking.
Oh, all right then, boys. Up next we have Gravewood High. Several students have gone missing at Gravewood High, and none of the adults seem to have noticed. Figure out what is behind the madness permeating the school's walls in the story campaign. Play with up to 5 friends in the co-op mode as you try to escape. But there are 3 problems. 1, the building has been turned into a deadly labyrinth that constantly shifts and changes. 2, you are being chased by the teacher, a crazy overlord of this place. And 3, not all of your friends can be trusted.
I didn't get around to
That's
this
fine.
one. This was one of Nate's picks. This is Nate's only pick, I think, this season. So now I feel bad because Nate picked a game, but then he immediately was like, by the way, I'm not sure you need to play this compared to the rest. So I played 5 out of the 7 games we do. Nate seemed to think I could miss this one, so I'm just gonna let you guys.
Okay, Siri.
Siri.
Thank you, Siri.
That was Siri's rating, a 5.28 out of 10.
So Nate, what made this jump out to you? And give me some impressions, sir.
Yeah, so I was looking through games, and I was like, you know what? I usually just go to Itch and look around Itch for the free games. I'm going to do something different this year. I'm going to look through Steam and GOG and see what I can find. And I saw this one on GOG, and I was like, you know what? This looks pretty interesting. And I know Dalton loves a good high school themed horror game. So
oh yeah. yeah, you know me.
So I was like, this one looks pretty interesting. I liked the idea and concept. And so I was like, and one thing I like to do too is like last year I picked out Huggy. What's the name of the game? Poppy's Playtime, yeah, because like I wanted to try to find like a more professionally and polished put together game.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I was looking for here. And I knew the Gravewood High was on more of a finished state than a lot of these games. And like the way that it was set up is like it gives you the first 2 chapters and then you can buy the rest of it if you want to. So I was like, yeah, let's give this one a shot. That was my game plan with that.
So when you pointed this out to me, we had just got done having a conversation where I was talking about how high school and liminality in high schools just freaks me out. Like, the scariest part of Outlast 2 to me was that section where it dropped you in the high school and you started walking through the hallways with just random shit happening at night, and it was just really freaky, right? And it goes...
Is this why you didn't get around to the Brazilian game last year?
What was the Brazilian game?
The one about the computers. It was like a computer programming thing, and then... I don't remember what it was called, but...
No, I have no idea, brother. I don't know. I can't answer that. I have no answer for you.
It was based in like the mid-90s. That's why I said computers, because it reminded me, like, I think you were supposed to go over a computer club, but then it kind of turned out to be like a overnight, like, lunar cult thing. I don't remember. We did it last year. Someone will know.
Well, in any case, so yeah, they normally freak me out. So I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's pop into here. But I immediately noticed this game is very cartoony looking, so that actually didn't bother me. Like, there was no liminality to it, so I was a little more eased with it. But I did enjoy the look of the game and the overall. I'm not gonna say that getting more into like actual talk of it. Like, I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy this game because I like for what I was doing, it was all right. And this game, I will go full disclosure. This game crashed on me and it pissed me off and I never loaded it up again. Okay, because I had gone through and done this really like fucking puzzle where I had to go around and find all this shit and I had to get away from Homeboy. So this game does a cardinal sin for me in horror games. And I think this started with Amnesia and those games like that where you can't attack back.
Yeah.
You were just a hopeless piece of shit hoping to survive, and it drives me fucking crazy because I grew up with like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, all of these games were like, yeah, it was super scary, but you also could like shoot a motherfucker if they needed to be shot. You know, it just so I get it, but I don't think this game style is for me.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I thought one thing I'll say, the art style was good. It wasn't anything incredible, but it was good. It was definitely the most polished game we played. Like the controls felt nice and crisp. Everything worked the way it was supposed to. But the thing about it is it just kind of felt silly. Like the first time you're introduced to the big scary teacher that you're supposed to be avoiding, I just look at this guy and I was like, this is just a nerd. This guy's just an old nerd with glasses on. There's nothing scary about this guy. So, like, I started playing through the game a little bit. And I got to this one point. I was like, you know what? I want to see what happens if you get caught by the teacher. So I went ahead and just kind of let that happen because I want to see, does this game get scary at any point? And I got caught by the teacher and just kind of showed the teacher grabbing you and then went to a black screen. There was absolutely nothing scary about that. It's like, I know you can say the same thing for games like Phasmophobia where you get caught by the ghosts and you just get grabbed and killed. But there's something way scarier about the way that game handles it. It's like the way this game handles that same kind of death. But yeah, there was just nothing scary about this game. And I will say that I think the reason for that in general is I don't think that we are the right target demographic for this game. I think this is more for like a preteen, somebody that when we were that age, we were reading Goosebumps books, things like that. I think if that's
absolutely
the same, like the Five Nights at Freddy's type demographic, where it's like just the jump scare at the end is enough to scare you.
Yeah,
and I very much.
I was say, and this game also has a constant narrator telling you things, like with a walkie-talkie whispering thing, like not whispering, but just like saying things to do. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm not buying this person, and I'm not buying what this game's putting down. But I think that's because I'm a 38-year-old man.
And also, like we talked about this off air, there's a lot of comparisons that can be made with this and Hello Neighbor. Very similar style of game. But I think a lot of the reasons that, Nate, you said that this isn't scary. I think a lot of the reasons that it isn't very scary is because of the art style. Because there are sections of like Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, which are very much more realistic looking games where you are sneaking around like in trying to stay out of the sight of the people, and it is much more terrifying. And I think they just do it a lot better in those games. And I think it's just atmosphere, and all of that is. But that is also Resident Evil games more geared towards people our age.
Yeah, I think it was a stylistic choice, and I think they were made it the amount of scary they were trying to make it for a youngin, not for us. Like, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with this game. I just don't think it was for old dudes on the internet.
I think a lot of horror games that are aimed towards kids usually have jump scares and they have tension, and that's usually what's considered the scary. Is it's so tense, but that's not always what scares. You know what I mean? Like, to me these days, that's why I'm kind of excited to play Pathologic, because I've heard that's more of a horror game that deals with like shit that's actually scary. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, Gravewood High. If I had to give it a rating, because is there anything else you wanted to mention about it? Like,
nah, I think that was about it for this one.
Yeah, I will say that they coded the moving the plugs. They coded that well. Like, that thing moved around and it went where I wanted it to go. Like, it didn't have a lot of jank to it. I expected that thing to be janky as shit when I was trying to plug it in, but it wasn't, which was nice. I'll give it that. I'm giving this game 6 graves. No, I take that back. I'm going to give it a 5.5 graves out of 10 woods.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize this is a personal rating for me, Nathan, the Turtle Bear Man, not for the 12-year-old kid that you're trying to find a game to spook them on Halloween with. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm giving this also a 5 chocolate chip brownie Eggos out of 10 Fruit Loop Eggos.
Nice.
So equal to the previous one. You have 2
Yeah,
5s.
2 5 so far. Like, I think because like, the thing about Pagers, I think the problem with it is it's just not developed enough, and I think the problem with this one is it's just developed for a different target demo.
Okay, yeah, I think that's... I'm not challenging your questions, I'm just saying, yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
I said challenge your questions. I want to say I'm not challenging, I'm not questioning you. And I'm like, I'm not challenging your questions. I'm not questioning your challenges.
Up next, Security Booth. Based in 1996, you are working for a company known as Nova Nexus. You play as a security guard. Your job role is to make sure that only the right authorized personnel get into the facility. So what made you pick this?
What made me pick this is I wanted to pick the game That's Not My Neighbor, but it turns out that has a $3 limit even at the basest version of it. But I also wanted to pick a game that's about, like, you know, making sure only the right people make it in to where you're at. Also, highly recommend we check out That's Not My Neighbor. Like, I know it's not... we're already done for Halloween, so we can't add more Halloween games, but holy shit, That's Not My Neighbor seems really cool.
Cool.
So, how'd you feel about Security Booth?
I liked the vibes. Again, I'm kind of a sucker for this PSX VHS thing. You know, this, like, it is 1998, 1999. Like, you have plugged this shit into your, like, TV, which is a CRT TV. I kind of got really irritated early on because it's like almost all of the plate, you're supposed to check plate numbers, and almost all of them have I's and O's or ones and zeros, and I'm like, okay, is that what the trick is? Because this is not fun.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about this game is, like, it wasn't super fun. like the whole idea of the game is, like, a car pulls up, you greet them, you check their plate, and you see if the plate is in this directory. It's about a 5-page long directory you have to scan through and see if the plate is in there. And if it is, you let them in. If they don't, you don't let them in. And
again, that is basically the same mechanic in That's Not My Neighbor, except that also requires you to, like, look at the person, all these other things to try to make sure you're not letting a doppelganger into the thing. I'm going to be honest, I just ended up picking a poor man's version of a game I wanted to play, and this wasn't it.
Yeah, and it's like, so with that being said, like, you know, I actually restarted the game once because, like, the way that the UI works, like, you talk to the person in the car, and then, so I talked to the person in the car again, and they're like, so are you going to let me in or not? And you have two options, yes or no. And I didn't have the chance to check their plate yet. And so, it was forcing me to make a decision whether I'd let them in or not. So I was like, well, shit, now I got to restart the game because I didn't get to check this because I wasn't aware how the mechanics worked yet.
So yes, just lets you check it again. If you hit no, though, it
well, I didn't, well, how was I going to know that?
No, you weren't supposed to know that because it wasn't communicated very well. Also, this game, like several of the ones we played, have pretty poor grasp on the English language, which is wild too because this game clearly takes place in England.
Yeah,
because the cars come up on the left
I will
side.
say this game has a couple jump scares in it. Like, you'll be at one point, like, your phone will start ringing, and it'll say some really cryptic bullshit at you. At one point, this handprint appears on the front of your security booth. You're like, well, where the hell did that come from? But it was like nothing that was really going to make you jump out of your booties.
The one thing that did bother me, like, actually kind of got me spooked, was there was just a car parked along the way with another dude just standing outside of it, looking at it for a little while.
I feel like
that one actually kind of.
I feel like that might have been the first person you turned away. I feel like that was the same car. I think that was somebody that was trying to get in. Towards the end of the game, there was this one lady that was like, help me, that drove up, and, like, you check their plates and they're supposed to go in, so you let them in, but you're like, I wonder what's going on with that. But, okay, Dalton, we haven't let you talk about how you feel about this game at all yet, so before we get to my final thoughts, what do you think about this one?
So, I thought this did atmosphere very well. Was it fun?
I think when you were waiting, the atmosphere was nice. I actually think waiting between cars was interesting. It gave you a lot of time to just build your own spooks. But in a similar way that Kiosk does, which is a game we'll talk about later, and I thought that did a better job, so...
And so the parts that stood out to me in this game was that I just had this impending dread feeling. Because I'm like, obviously I'm working for somewhere, they're calling in late, I'm getting these phone calls that are like security breach. So I'm like, okay, so I'm working at somewhere with, like, some shit going on inside that you probably don't want to know.
It's called Nexus Nova.
And the checking the plates and all of that kind of got, monotonous, but I think it was supposed to, because that's when you're just sitting there doing the same thing over and over, you start looking for other things. That's when that car pulls up and that dude just gets out and stands there for a while. Now, I took note of that car because I hadn't seen that kind of car yet. And the next few people come up and I check their license plate, and then I saw that station wagon pull in, and I said, that's the same car that was parked out there earlier. And I walked out and I talked to him, and he goes, hey, it's my first night tonight. I'm nervous about to get to the job, but could I get you to let me in? Check his plates. I don't let him in. So he leaves. And that's when you start getting the phone calls like, I'm watching you. Things like that. Or I might be, no, that was from Kiosk. Well, anyway, you start getting, that's when the weird phone calls really start, like where you start getting the like system error and all that kind of calls.
Yeah.
And the girl that you go up and talk to her and you say, she says, help me, but like the text is all jumbled up. And like Nate said, you're supposed to let her in. So you let her in, and as she's driving in, your phone rings and you pick it up and it just goes, help me. And you're like, all right. And then all of a sudden someone's honking a horn at you. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there were times where your vision, the VHS would start getting more intense.
Yeah.
And it would kind of close in a little bit, right? You know, that would be like when the car honks at you to let it out, and then it just stops. And I'm like, I'm not walking out there. I let you out of the gate. Go home. Go home. So I'm just waiting, and I'm waiting, and then I'm like, I have to go out there. I have to go out there. So I opened the door, and I walked out. Boom! Car falls out of the sky onto it, into the game.
Okay, so you got the same ending.
Yeah, what the fuck was that ending? Like,
no idea.
I don't know.
It made no goddamn sense. And like, that was ending 1, because it said ending 1.
Yeah, okay, so we all got ending 1.
And here's the thing. If you're gonna make a game with multiple endings, you gotta make sure that the game is worth playing at least once first.
Yeah, I'm curious what the second ending
I'm going to
is.
go ahead and say that this one was a swing and a miss from me. And even before you guys start rating shit, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is an easy 4.
So I'm curious. I'll probably end up like, because I meant to before we recorded and I forgot, but I'm going to watch one of the playthroughs of it that's on itch and see if I can't figure out what the second ending is. I wonder if it has anything to do with approaching that guy while he's just standing out there.
You can't walk out there. I tried.
Yeah, no, yeah, you can only go like one car length away from the car in either direction.
Okay, well then I will say
I did the same.
I restarted this game, my first one, because I told the first person that pulled up to go away. And then I went, and as they were pulling away, I was reading through the book again and was like, fuck, their license plate was on there.
I did that with the second guy, actually.
So I ended up going back and playing through again, and I let everybody in that was supposed to come in, at least I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe the person who gives me the maybe we shouldn't let them in. Maybe they're like some kind of alien or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I just really didn't understand the ending because like it wasn't scary. I just walked out there and a car fell on top of me for no goddamn reason. I'm like, what was I supposed to get from that? I'm really confused.
Yeah, this one just didn't do it. I'm sorry.
No,
guys.
I don't know. There's
nothing to apologize for. Like, we're playing these games because we're trying to find the fun ones, and we're going to get stuff like this too. But it's just interesting. It's just like, I just want to know what the programmer was thinking.
Yeah, I have no idea what that was supposed to be. I wanted it to be That's Not My Neighbor, and it just fucking wasn't.
There is a director's cut version that is available on Steam and itch that has 7 endings.
Okay.
Interesting.
I don't care. I just
interesting.
don't give a shit.
And it will run on a dedicated graphics card. So like that's the level of graphics we're working with here. Yeah, I mean, to me it wasn't bad. Like I enjoyed the atmosphere of it. I didn't really understand the ending. I don't think it was really an ending to be understood, but I think it did what it was trying to do as far as just build up tension and atmosphere well. But I'm gonna give it a 6.
Yeah.
Security guards out of 10 cars dropping on your balls.
Yeah.
This was a 4 that looks like an A out of a 10 that looks like an I-O.
Yeah. It's just a 4 out of 10. I'm not going to justify it with funny words. I just didn't care for this one very much.
Again, not only is it not That's Not My Neighbor, but also I think anything this game did, the fucking window washing game did better.
So, up next we have late homework. Feeling she has no choice, she decides to go her own... Oh, I forgot the first sentence. Hanako has forgotten her assigned homework at school, and they're due tomorrow. Feeling she has no choice, she decides only the way to avoid failing the semester is to make a trip back to school at night and retrieve the assignments. But something's not right in the building.
Yeah, so this one came up pretty interesting. Like, I really liked the original design of this one. Like, the character design was really neat. Hanako's this cute little cat girl who's going back to the school to get her stuff, get her homework. Which, interesting concept. Like, I don't know why she had to go back to school to get the homework because it was already there. Why couldn't she just go back and get it in the morning? But then I guess we wouldn't have a game. But this game looks very much like a PlayStation 1 game. It even has tank controls like you would find in an old school survival horror type game. I feel like
even the camera, like, used a mixed variety between tank controls and like fixed cameras, and then like third person.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and I felt like it was made to feel like an old school horror game on a PS1. Like, this game very much looked, felt, and played like an old school Resident Evil type game. Maybe not so much because you don't really have a way to defend yourself in it, which I know Dalton hates, but other than that, like, it felt very much like an old survival horror Resident Evil type game. I really thought that the way they handled the monster coming after you was pretty interesting too. Like, you could run, but you had a very small stamina bar, like you were a Phasmophobia 2-pack-a-day smoker. But
yes, sir.
Yeah, that's
but like, you had the ability to outrun and avoid the monster. If you went and ducked into a room, it wouldn't follow you into the room. The monster killing you in this game was way scarier than getting grabbed and taken by a teacher in Gravewood High.
Bro, was not expecting it, because like you're playing as a cat, right? So
yeah, a little cute cat girl, Hanako.
I'm like, okay, so this is going to be like a cutesy horror
Hanako
game.
means flower child in Japanese.
I think it's going to be like a cutesy horror game.
Yeah. And
the first fucking room I went into, as I'm approaching the door to go out, I realized too late that my vision was being all weird. And I was like, so as I opened the door, as soon as I walked out, the monster was there, grabbed her and popped her fucking head, and it just starts bleeding out.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, super violent.
Okay, so all of us died several times.
Super violent
in
and
this game,
scary. I loved it, honestly.
Yeah. Dude, the monster had some like nasty, like just bladey, like mantis limbs in its front.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nasty boy. I like that monster a
The
lot.
designs for the two characters in this game, you and the monster, I thought were very effective and good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I didn't end up beating this. I think I found 7 or 8 pages.
Oh, you didn't win.
And then got murked and was like...
You had to start from the beginning.
I played through... Yeah, I think I played through like 4 or 5 times, and I never quite got to the end.
That is my main complaint, is even if you get all 10 pages, you still have to finish it. And if you die there, you still have to...
I didn't finish this game either. I did end up watching a YouTube of a full playthrough of it afterwards, because like, I like this game a lot. I think it's really cool, but I didn't feel the need to play it again myself. I just kind of wanted to see what happened through the rest course of the game and see the things that I didn't see. Dalton, I'm really curious, especially for you, and how you felt about the controls in this game. Because me and Willie were kind of talking about how it's kind of tank controls, and it's kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. That's what I think of when I think of old school survival horror games. Like, it's tank controls and the isometric camera. And one of the big complaints I saw in the comments on the itch page was somebody was saying that like the controls and the camera were jank. Like, but I'm assuming,
they're young,
and this is no offense to the younger generation, but that this was a young kid who had never experienced how tank controls work before, because tank controls are great for games like these, because as long as you're moving forward, if you're pressing up, you are moving forward, so you're moving whatever direction you are facing.
Yeah, I had no issues with the controls. I thought it played extraordinarily well, and I think one of the things that works really well for this kind of horror type game is that the controls are a little bit difficult, because it makes it scarier and harder to run away from the monster that is chasing you. Like, you get...
There's some bizarre choices in the controls, like the accept button, which you would expect to be either X or circle on a PlayStation controller, would be square.
Yeah. And it goes back to, like, in Resident Evil, with the tank controls, you had to commit. Do I fully turn around so I can shoot at them?
Yeah. Or
do I turn to run? Because if you turn to shoot at them, it's going to take you just as long to turn back around to be able to run away. So it was a commitment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as it was in this game, too. Like, you could either turn and run towards the door, but if you make that wrong choice to start running towards the monster, you are fucked. Which is good, but the only problem I had with that is there's no checkpointing system in this game. So, like, if you die at 3/4 of the way through the game, you start back from the beginning.
I mean,
if you die with 10... with all your homework finished, you still start over from the beginning.
Even if, like, to me, it would have been nice to have 2 checkpoints. One at 5 pages collected and one at the 10 pages collected.
I would have finished the game in that case.
I would have liked one at 10. Yeah.
But that being said, it didn't really bother me so much. Like, because this is, like I said, a very independent person creating a game. And for what they did, I thought they did a pretty goddamn incredible job of it. But, like, I just didn't feel the need to finish it myself, but I did really, really enjoy this one.
And I do want to point out...
So this one was made for a game jam. It was made in 2 weeks by one person. It was made for the Anomalous Entity Jam by Horror Visuals and Strange Creature Games, and Raptorsoft, the developer, or Soda Raptor, completely did this just in 2 weeks by themselves.
Which is incredible.
And, I gotta say, yeah, this is, it feels so coherent.
This is one that I think was the second biggest surprise to me out of all of them, because this felt in many ways like as good as any other survival horror from a PlayStation era. Like, this one to me was as good as that one that took place in that St. Augustine hospital that we played a few years ago. Yeah. Like, this one was that good to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like this one. So this one is also the demo for a game that's coming out on Steam very soon. It seems like the full game is also going to be a pretty short game, so we'll find out more. But, yeah. Also, I love that when you open the game, it begins with the Unity splash screen made in Unity, and above it says, unfortunately, this was...
Yeah, and he's got 2 other games on Steam, Interior Worlds and Hypnagogia. Boundless Dreams.
So yeah, this developer, Hypnagogia, is his biggest work. This guy's a veteran of game jams, and Hypnagogia is apparently a thing. Like, that's the one he advertises on his, like, Blue Sky page, is the thing he's most known for, so...
Interior World sounds cool to me, though. Snap your own homemade liminal space photos.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Sounds interesting.
So this person definitely has interest in, like, liminal spaces and horror and all of that. And
this one spooked me.
I would definitely love to get into more Soda Raptor shit.
This one spooked me far more than Gravewood High.
Oh, God, yes.
As far as the school and stuff, it was like, why are the lights got to be off?
Why is there this?
I was glad my.
Why is there this huge scary monster stalking the school?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I'm going to say, like I said at the beginning, 7 is the number you're trying to hit if you made a pretty solid game for this. I'm giving this like a 9. This one is actually dope as fuck. Like, there's so much great shit with the connection.
Yeah, I think if I were going to give this one a rating that, like, I think I would go 8.5 monsters out of 10 cute cat girls. Yeah,
I'm going to give this one 8 classrooms out of 10 schools. Just because I really, really like this game. I had, like, the couple issues I said I had with it, or the couple issues I have with it. And funny enough, we had an accidental guest visitor on this episode too. Shoutouts to Kana.
She just wrote in the chat, whoops.
But this was a very cool game. Like, if you want to go onto Itch and grab this one, I would definitely recommend it. This is probably my second favorite of the games that we've played.
Yeah, this was up there for
me. I just felt like this one was small but robust. This was I was going to say first one. This is actually the second one I did, but I really enjoyed it. Like, this one got me into the mood to do more of them, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So up next we have Cleanie's Window Service. You get a request from an unknown client. They need you to clean their windows during the night. Given the look of their luxurious home, you expect a big payout for your service. So, I chose this one because... I think I chose the last one too, but that was just because it reminded me of Resident Evil. But this one I chose because I like cleaning windows and House Flipper, as stupid as that sounds.
Dude, I was actually going to say this game, genuinely, one of my notes is this game made me want to play House Flipper.
Yeah, it's tremendous, dude.
Hold on, I think I actually have, I have it in my notes. I will actually screenshot it real quick.
So, this is a very simple game. There was not a lot to this one. Oh, yeah. So, like, it's basically, you're just a cleaning guy. You show up to this big old house. You go up, you knock on the door, and it's low poly too. Like, everything.
It's unshaded. It's like garage shaded. There's no texture to any of the polygons.
Which I love that look. That's how Gadonia is.
Yeah, I was really enamored by the look of this game. Like, it reminded me of something that was like, by 1999, people would have made fun of you for making a game that looked like this. But now today we're like, oh yeah, this retro look is really awesome. Like, the just untextured polygons was really cool.
I dug it.
Yeah. So first impressions, man. Like, and this is probably one of the shorter games that we played.
It was one of the shorter games, but one of the more effective, honestly.
Yeah,
I agree.
I thought it did. What it did with storytelling with no dialogue, I thought was really, really good. Like, so. You're basically just going through and cleaning windows. And then your squirt bottle runs out. You're like, I got to refill more. I left my key out in the out in the lawn. I gotta go find it somewhere. I must have dropped it. So you go, you pick up your key, you come back, you unlock the back of your truck, you get more supplies, and you go back to cleaning windows. But you realize the window that you were cleaning is now open, and there are footprints going into it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh. So from that moment on, I knew, okay, I'm going to be witnessing a murder or something through these windows as I go through this game. I was like, all right. So immediately...
Well, even before that, you're noticing like some strange masks in all the rooms.
Mm-hmm. Those definitely stuck out to me. Like all these masks you'd see in the room, like interesting designed masks, just everywhere strewn about. Like you're like, I wonder what the deal with all these masks are.
And then I loved how you'd like come to a window and you'd spray it and you'd wipe it off so you could see inside, and you'd see one of those masks, and then you would turn to get your sponge to start cleaning off the red paint or blood or whatever it was, and you turn back and the mask is gone.
Yeah.
There were little things like that. Or like when you're in the kitchen and you see the two people who are eating the cake and like doing like a birthday celebration type thing. And then you go to the next window and you're cleaning it and you see somebody run by. Yeah. And then you turn to grab your washcloth and you washcloth it off and you see a little spurt of blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then you grab the sponge to go clean it again. And looks like there's been a murder in the kitchen.
Yeah, it was really subverting your expectations because like you were thinking like, oh man, I'm watching this family get fucking murdered while I'm cleaning the house. It was just like, oh shit, maybe I should call the cops, but I don't have the option, so I'm just going to keep cleaning the windows.
So how about you guys? When I started getting to those last few in the top row, I started getting real tense. Like, okay, what's going to happen? Is something going to be there in the window and it's going to get me? Like, what is going to happen? And then I finished it and I'm like, oh, nothing. So I hit the button again and then I started going up to those upper windows. And I was like, oh God. Oh God, they're in the attic. Yep. Oh God, yeah, that's... Oh no.
That is... It really did. Like,
the build-up is great.
A good job of building it up. Because, like, honestly, it's like, it's a cleaning game, right? So like, there's not really a big gameplay loop. It's not like it shouldn't really feel like a big story, but it's just like, you're doing this very relaxing job, this very relaxing task, while watching this weird shit happen. It was just like super interesting, and the tension it built up, and you knew like you couldn't just leave. You were going to finish cleaning these windows because you need to get that payday. And you're just like, oh, fuck, what am I going to see next? What am I going to see next? And like what you said, like when you start heading up towards those very top windows, you're like, this is when shit's really going to start happening, I bet.
Yeah.
And how it culminates is you get to clean this one window and you see shadows move by and there's like 2 windows left. And this is where they got me because I'm like, okay, there's 2 left. I'm going to be all right for this.
Yeah.
So you go to the next one and you spray it and you see, what was it, like 6 people standing there all in masks and like black bodysuits. And then you turn to grab your rag and you turn back and they're all gone.
Yeah.
So you wipe the thing and then you turn to grab your sponge and you turn back and they bust through the window and grab you and yank you inside, and that's the end of it. It was just like, ah!
They got me with that. I was absolutely looking to the next window too. That was really clever.
Yeah,
really,
they timed
really
that
smart.
extremely well because like, and the fact that you have to turn away to get the next part, like the cloth or whatever, something's going to happen, but there's nothing you can do about it at the same time. It's just like really well conceived, really well constructed. Like the chore aspect of this never got old. Just because like you were just like wondering what you were going to see once you wiped away the dust, and then when you wiped away that paint or grime or whatever it was with the sponge, you're like, what is going to happen while I'm doing this?
Bro, it took me back to when I was doing property preservation, and there'd be certain houses that we were cleaning, and I'm like wiping up some stuff and mopping in a room, and I'm like, so what happened in here? And Wes would be like, oh yeah, some dude just like murdered his wife, and he's in prison. And I'm like, oh. So he's like, the crime scene people already cleaned up most of it. He goes, but yeah, some of it, like, that's why we wear masks and stuff while we're doing this. I was like, bro, the banks just don't give a fuck. The banks are like, no, we just need you guys to clean this so we can sell it.
Sheesh.
Like, it's brutal, but that's what it made me think of. I was like, I'm glad I never ran into anything like this.
Yeah, like I liked the cozy game underneath this. I would actually play that game. I would play Window Cleaner Simulator 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it.
Like, yeah, I like genuinely like you said, House Flipper. It reminded me of House Flipper, like one of the tasks in House Flipper, and I don't know, it felt nice. Like, it felt good, and then when it hit you with the scares, it hit them with a really good tempo.
Yeah, and the interesting about it was the very beginning of the games, like, I was feeling more voyeuristic than anything, because you were cleaning the windows,
and
like, you clean this one window, and you see this kid just sitting on his bed playing with his Game Boy, I want to say, because I'm old, it was probably something else, but he was probably on his phone.
He waves at you.
Yeah,
when
and
you
it's just
finish.
like I felt like a voyeur because like I'm just cleaning this dude's window and now I'm looking in at him as I clean it.
Yeah.
But as the game keeps going on, you feel less like a voyeur and more like you're seeing shit you're not supposed to. Like I think it does a really interesting job of changing the way you feel about what you're doing through the course of you doing it. Like I don't know, man. It was just really, really interesting.
The environmental
Yeah,
storytelling
I fully agree.
was tremendous.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was all environmental storytelling, really.
It's 100% environmental. I have one little thing that kind of kept me from completely loving this game. Why am I cleaning bloodstains on the outside? What the fuck happened?
I didn't necessarily see them as
kind of-
bloodstains, just like really grimy grime. That's kind of what I was seeing them as, but
I mean,
and it is explained
as
at
a
the
character, that's what I was seeing it as, but...
Like, at the end, after they yank you in that cutscene, it shows them they re-dirty up the windows.
Yeah.
And you see a text message from them getting to another cleaner to come do
Oh,
it.
you're right, yeah.
So,
Still, I mean, it did... I mean, I don't know. The fact that it made my brain run the whole time is probably a good sign, actually.
yeah, I mean, if I was going to give this one a rating, I think I'm going to rate... This is probably my second favorite that we played. I'm probably going to give it a 9.5 on the Halloween rating scale.
yeah.
90,
I'll give this 9 PSI out of 10.
An SIE, what?
9 PSI out of 10.
Yeah, this is my third favorite we played. I think I liked Late Homework a little bit more than this one, but this one was close. I think there were two very different games. Like Late Homework, I felt like executed more on the technical aspect and really making you feel like you're in a PS1 level horror experience. And this one's definitely not that, but it definitely executed on the atmosphere and the storytelling it was trying to do extraordinarily well. I also think this one gets the same rating as Late Homework, even though I liked it a little bit better, but I'm giving this one an 8 masks out of 10 children playing on their iPhones in bed waving at you.
Fair enough, man. All right. Well, then that brings us to Kiosk. You work the night shift at a new job in a small food kiosk where you try to find out what happened to the guy before you. So this is the first one I played.
Yep.
And it is probably the only one that really, like, spooked me. So what made this one jump out to you, Will?
This one is a jump scare fiesta, and yet I actually thought that the jump scares were incredibly well done in this game. Like, I was very happy with the jump scares. Like, after something happened, I was like, oh, you son of a... And then I was just, like, grinning ear to ear. Like, every one of them was just enough to get my heart rate pumping a little bit. And then I just kept on going.
So what made you pick it?
To be honest, I just thought it looked like, you know, we'd just done another cooking game, and I just kind of thought it would be funny to do another cooking game.
That's fair. That's fair. I thought it was cool for what it was as far as the cooking mechanics go. They were very simplistic and kind of ridiculous that you would just throw your knife at a package and it would cut it open for you. But did either of you burn anything? Because I definitely burned a few things.
Yeah.
on accident.
I burned my first one and actually started watching them after that.
I burned something once and just threw it away after that. Because, like, it wasn't...
Yep.
Because I was trying to cook multiple things at once, but then I realized it's too big a pain in the dick to try to cook two things at once because you can only assemble one thing at once. And there's not really a time limit on it, so it was just kind of like, I'm not trying to do that anymore. I'm just going to do everything one at a time.
Yeah, that's what I started doing as well.
I mean, you can do multiple things at once and just throw them on the floor because nobody cares if you put Burger King.
Oh, yeah, my lettuce was on the floor the entire game.
Yeah, there's a lot of my hot dogs.
Number 5, Burger King.
But it made it a little bit
lettuce.
annoying, too, though, because, like, if you put a bun down and you grabbed a hot dog and accidentally put a hot dog down next to it, the hot dog would fly into the bun, and then you couldn't remove the hot dog from the bun, so you'd have to make an entirely new one because you didn't want to serve a raw hot dog to your customer.
The same thing happened to me with lettuce once, actually. That's why I started throwing my lettuce on the floor.
Yeah, I scored what I thought I scored ketchup on the hot dog, and I had missed apparently, and I gave it to the guy, and he was like, "I wanted ketchup on this," and I was like, "Oh, god damn it!" And it ended up being the dude who was like, "Hey, what's that behind you?" And then he fucks off and doesn't pay you.
Oh, that fucking guy. Dude, that was, I think, one of the cleverest things that this game did, because, you're expecting a jump scare, but no, this guy's just stealing from you. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, and I think he's the one that ends up killing you in the end of the game.
So.
Yeah, I think so, too. That is definitely the read I had.
Because he comes back, and you're like, "Hey, you're that guy who didn't pay me. I'm not serving you till you pay me."
I am your lord! Pay attention to me!
Yeah,
I feel like you guys liked this more than me. From the way this sounds. Like, I thought this game was so fucking boring. And just like, the cooking mechanics sucked so much ass. It was just like, and then I don't know, man. And like, I thought it was an interesting overall concept, but the execution was so dull. And like, even when you did a couple of jump scares, there was kind of like, ooh, black dots. I don't know, man. It didn't work for me. Like, I did not enjoy taking the orders, making the orders, and the ending was goofy as fuck.
The ending was really stupid.
The ending sucked.
I'm going to be honest. The ending did not at all make any sense. Like, I was like, wait, that's how this one goes out? But I thought it was an okay game. Like I said, you're shooting for a 7 when you make games for this part of the show. I think this was the exact 7 I'm talking about.
I think I'm going to give this one a 6.5. It was spooky, but the ending was dull. And honestly, like, just because I'm a weirdo, I would have the cooking mechanic would have been a slight more in depth.
I wish it would have been better. If the cooking mechanic was better, this game would have been better.
Also, who the fuck is ordering like ketchup and lettuce on a hot dog? You got to be put in jail.
Yeah, lettuce on the hot dog was interesting. I mean, I would try it.
The one thing I did think was interesting that this game did was like that one guy was like, "My wife just left me. Give me 5 beers."
Yeah,
and then the next day, shift,
that story
like,
actually makes
hey,
sense.
did you hear about the dude who crashed? They said he had alcohol in his system.
Yeah.
Anyway, take care of yourself.
Yeah. So I thought that was like an interesting build. Like, oh man, I accidentally helped this guy in his death. But other than that, like,
even when he said that, I was like, this is irresponsible. I shouldn't do this, but I don't have a choice, do I?
Yeah, so you guys gave this, I'm going with, this is probably my second least favorite game we played. Like, it was slightly worse than Gravewood High. I mean, slightly better than Gravewood High to me. I'm giving this also a 5 out of 10.
Right, that's fine.
That's fair. And
unfortunately, I didn't get around to the last game, so I'm just going to have to fucking stand on y'all's shoulders.
So that brings us to the final game. Do not take this cat home. It's your day off, but the weather is really bringing you down. But you're drawn to the distant sound of something calling out to you. You follow it to a dark, lonely alley, and at the back of the alley, in a cardboard box, is a cat. A very cute cat. What will you do? Will you ignore it and go enjoy your day off? Will you befriend it? Will you take it home? Surely you will, right? Right? Who could say no? So, quick warning that it gives. I just want to read this out. This game is not suitable for children or the easily disturbed. It includes depictions of horror elements, human and animal violence and death, abuse and abusive relationships, disturbing images, loud noises, flashing images, lights, and more. Individuals suffering from anxiety and depression or certain fears and phobias may not have a safe experience playing this game. So, Nate, what'd you think of Don't Take This Cat Home?
This game is art.
Yeah.
Damn it, I missed the art.
Like, this game, like, it's a visual novel, right? Like, this is like a definition of what a visual novel is. And, like, I'm not typically into that, like, as I think I've made clear a few times on this show. But this game, like, it does it super well. I played this game and got 3 separate endings on this game because I really did enjoy it that much. I got 2 endings where I did take the cat home and 1 where I did not take the cat home.
Yeah, so I definitely played through a bunch. I think I ended up getting about 9 endings or so. I took the cat home. I didn't take the cat home a few different times. I didn't take the cat. Like, after I had taken it home once, I tried to avoid taking it home again, right? So basically, you take the cat home. It's super cute. And you're trying to feed it. And it's like, it doesn't want anything. So you go and you buy some cat food. You come back, you open up the can, and you put the food out for the cat. And it doesn't want it. It just doesn't want anything to do with it. You're like, okay, whatever. So you start making a sandwich for yourself. You slice your finger when you're trying to cut the tomato. You drop the knife. Cat gets up there, starts licking the blood off the knife. Licks it clean.
Oh, dear.
So then the cat just keeps trying to lick your wound. Keeps trying to lick your wound. Keeps trying to lick your wound.
Freak.
You're like, this is a fucking weird cat, right? So it ends up that, like, the power goes off, and you're like, oh, shit, what's going on here? You start walking around, all of a sudden you get a sharp pain in your foot, and you kick something,
Cat?
and you hear it clink across the floor, and you see it glinting in the moonlight as a blood-covered blade. But you had left the kitchen knife on the cutting board in the kitchen. So how did it end up in the living room on the floor? And suddenly you see 2 eyes appear in the darkness, and the cat comes strolling in from the shadows over to the knife and leans down and begins licking the blood off of it. And I don't remember exactly what else happens in that, but that's like ending 1.
Yeah, that's the first ending I got as well.
So then it pulls a thing that other visual novels that I've played do, and that's where you can continue and you start the game over again. And suddenly, instead of being a dark and depressing rainy day, it's a beautiful day outside.
Huh.
And you go wandering around and you hear a noise. And you go, and so this is where it starts getting weird, right? So you start talking to the cat, and it starts doing a thing where you're like, oh, do you want to take this cat home? And then it'll do small text, like I was doing that in the voice in the description, where it's like, you would never take this thing home again. And things like that. Like, it's very weird. So some of the endings I got was I said, I'm not going to take it home, but I'll feed it. And I try to feed it a can of food. It doesn't want it, so I go walking away. Well, on your way home, all of the cats are like staring at you. All the cats that you normally see just going about their business. And you get to your front door and you hear a meow. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Go back. Before you bite the can of food, you try to feed it things out of your pocket. And one of the things you have in your pocket is a chocolate bar. And you're going to go feed it to it. And then you remember that chocolate is toxic to cats. So you pull it away and you're like so upset with yourself that you almost fed this cat something toxic. You go and you buy the food, and that's why you feed it the food. So you get home, you're going to open your door, you hear another loud meow. You turn around, all of the cats that you saw on the way home are now standing there. They're all staring at you. And that one little cute black cat comes walking up in the middle with a chocolate bar in its mouth. And it puts it down in front of you and just stares at you. And you have a choice to lean down and eat the chocolate bar or to go inside. I went inside. So you go inside, you're like, oh man, what a weird day. I'm going to go take a bath. So you get into the bathtub. Dude, this is what Nate, yes, this is art. You get into the bathtub and your character's in there just like reminiscing about the things that had happened, still feels really bad about almost killing the cat with the chocolate. And you can still hear the cats meowing outside. And suddenly your legs start itching in the bathtub. Well, you go to lift your leg and look at it, but it's not a leg, it's a fishtail. And you're like, what the fuck? So you go to reach your arm up to get out of the tub. So you're like, what in the hell's going on? And it's a fish fin. And suddenly you slip, hit your head, and pass out. And when you wake up, you're underwater. You start freaking out. And you go to take a breath out of just pure shock, and a water bubble comes out. You can breathe. You swim over to the side of the tub to see your reflection in the light, and you are a fish. And above the surface of the water, you see two eyes peer above you, and you hear, meow. And it's at this moment you realize this is how you must atone for almost feeding the cat chocolate. You must now sustain the cat, and you swim to the surface, and the cat and snatches you, and the screen goes red, ending whatever.
That's a wild one. I didn't get that one.
Like, holy shit. So one other one I wanted to talk about was, did you get the stuffed animal ending? Okay, so you go to the cat, you don't take it home, but you're like, I'm going to get it a buddy. You know what I mean? So you go to the store and you find, you're like, how do I help? You know, most cat toys are for cats to play with like other cats, or you play with it, but you're having to find something to leave with this cat. So you find a stuffed cat and you put it down and the cat kind of ignores it, doesn't really do anything. So your guy's like, ungrateful little shit. And he turns around and you start to walk away, and all of a sudden, rip! You're like, what is that? You feel a tearing in your arm. Rip! And suddenly, you look down on the ground, and there's your arm, but there's no blood coming out. It's just stuffing. Rip!
What?
Your other arm gets torn off. Suddenly, both your legs get torn off, and now you are just laying in this alley. You are a torso. And the cat grabs you and drags you into its box and snuggles next to you. And you are now its toy that it can have. It's a fucking wild game, bro. Like, what were some of the endings you got?
So one of the ones I got is like, you're just playing with the cat. Like you meet the cat, and you're like, oh, no, I'm not going to take it home, but I'm going to at least play with it and make it have a little bit of a happy part of its day. So you start trying to figure out ways to play with it and stuff, and it's not really seeming to be interesting into any of that. So you're like, all right, you know what I'll do? Photoshop, photo section. So you just end up taking a bunch of selfies with the cat, take a bunch of pictures of the cat, and all that kind of stuff, and then you leave and start going home. As you start leaving, you start getting texts to your phone, and you look at the text, and it's a picture of the cat that you know you did not take. You're like, wait, what the hell is this? So you just like put it away, keep going, and then you keep getting more and more pictures of the cat that you know you didn't take, and they just keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder as you keep going on. Almost like, you know, like, what was his name? Jeff the Killer kind of pictures of the cat start showing up on your phone. And I don't remember exactly how that one ends, but you end up dying somehow from that as well. But my favorite ending that I got is one where you do take the cat home. And I didn't try to feed the cat this time. It's like, I know what happens when I try to feed the cat. I end up cutting myself, and the cat gets a taste of blood. So instead, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to chill, let the cat chill in the room while I do other things. So I start doing chores and stuff in the house. I come back like, all right, now it's time to sit down and relax. And I'm going to let's watch a movie, you know? And so you go to go sit in your chair, but you see that the cat is sleeping in your chair, and you're like, oh, well, shit. Okay, well then, I don't want to sit on the couch because it doesn't have a good angle of the TV, so you just start putting pillows and shit in front of the chair where you normally sit to watch the TV, and you just kind of make yourself like a little pillow fort down there and sit there while the cat is sleeping up above you. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to put my movie in. You just grab a random VHS tape, and it's like one of your favorite horror movies. And so you start watching the horror movie, and all of a sudden, blam, everything goes dark. And you're like, well, what the hell just happened? It must have been like a power surge or something. And things start to come back on. You're like, but you feel like something's watching you. So you start looking around, you look behind you, you see the cat's eyes just staring up at you. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot I brought this cat here. Okay, well, that's fine. Cats are weird. They just stare, right? And so you're like, okay, I'm going to turn my movie back on. So you turn the TV back on, and it's just the static starts coming in. You're like, huh, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, what happens is instead of the movie coming back on, it flicks to like a visual of just you and the cat sitting there, the cat sitting above you and you sitting down here. And you just start looking at it. It's like you're being recorded by a camera and it's being broadcast back to you through the TV. And then like all of a sudden, the version of you just waves at you on the camera. And you're just like, what the hell is going on? And the cat behind you starts changing shapes, and becomes this giant Cthulhian monster kind of shape. And the you on the TV screen just reaches back and pets it, and then touches one of its huge fangs and cuts itself, bleeding on the fang. And you look at your finger and you're starting to bleed too from the same spot. And you're just like, what the hell is going on? You're so scared you don't want to look behind you at the cat. And so like then the you that's sitting on the floor gets up and just looks up at the giant cat monster and just like jumps into the cat monster's mouth. And all of a sudden your entire world is black. You can no longer see anything. Then it turns red. And like, so like you got eaten by the giant cat monster from watching the movie. It's like, this game just does some weird shit. This guy has a mind that'll take him in weird places, and I love it.
There was an ending path that I backed out of. Did you go to the dog park?
No.
Okay, so there's one of the days where you can walk around and enjoy the day, one of the choices is to go to the dog park. So you go to the dog park, and this dog approaches you, just being all friendly. And you start giving it pets, and you get the option to pick it up or kick it. And I was like, all right. So I pick it up, and then it's like you have like a bunch of choices of either like pick it down, throw it, kill it, snap its neck, like all of these different things. And I just put it down, and then I got the option to leave the dog park. So I left the dog park. I'm like, I'm not sticking with whatever ending this is. I can't do it. I can't do it. No. So like for that alone, I think that this is probably the scariest game we played, as far as maybe more psychological-esque horror than it was because there was no jump scare. You know what I mean? It was all just dread.
Yeah. It did a fucking fantastic job of building all of that. Like, I'm super impressed.
Yeah, for sure. If I was going to give this one a rating, I'd just give it straight up. Just for the Halloween rating, I give it 10 kitties.
Yeah, this game did exactly what it wanted to do, and I'm super impressed with it. Like, especially for the Halloween episode, we usually do a good job of finding just one art, right? This is the art that we found, and I'm giving this one a 10 shining golden eyes out of 10 black kitties.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, boys, that is the free itch.io games, man. Nate, thank you very much for popping on, my good sir.
Oh, hell yeah.
Back to the bottom of the Indian Ocean with you. And we are going to do a little transition here, because the next time
we're going to do the questions first.
Oh, wait. Oh, shit. You are absolutely right. I forgot about those. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a few questions in from our listeners. Like, last minute got these into us because we didn't ask for them until about an hour and a half before we decided to record. So the first question comes in from the one, the only, the very dumpy Jeff. So Jeff asks us, if you had the money and the talent, what costume do you wish you could create?
Ooh, I would want to be like the ultimate like vampire. You know, just the whole just Victorian get up, like the classic like Lestat looking vampire. Like, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah.
But that would take some tailoring, and that would cost some money that I don't have.
I'd be the Riddler. What's up?
Which version of the Riddler?
No, exactly. I would be the ultimate version of the Riddler, like a combination of all the ones that came before, you know?
Cool.
He's just going to wear a big question mark.
Not just Frank Gorshin, not just Jim Carrey, but like...
That's really interesting that we have two Batman ones here, because I've always wanted to do this costume for a very, very long time. But I want to do the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Mr. Freeze in the bathrobe with the blue cigar.
Nice.
Like, I wanted to do that costume for such a long time, but A, I don't have that robe. B, I don't know how to do that much blue body paint at one time. Like, it seems like there'd be a lot that goes into it, but it'd be a really cool costume. So the next question comes in from our dear buddy Mikhailov, who wants to know, Nate, why are you like this? Because I've known my brother, Willie, for 38 years. That is why I'm like this.
Yeah, it's my fault, basically.
All right, and this one comes in from Jeff again. Which of the classic horror movies has the best theme? I'm assuming he means music, right? So, to me, it goes to the classic Halloween theme. Like, I love that. I just do.
The fact that John Carpenter composed it too, like the director of those movies, he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna fuck around in 5/4 time and see what happens. Like, insane.
I think I would either go with that one or the Exorcist theme.
Oh, that's good too.
Oh, Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield.
Just a classic spook.
Cool. All right, and next one, also from Jeff, which is a question for me, is, are you like Mikhailov and you hate New Jersey? New Jersey is not my dedicated state of hate. I think we've established on this show that I just really fucking hate Nevada, man. Nevada fucking sucks. Like, I guess there's something to do with states that begin with the letter N that we just don't like around here. But yeah, just send... Let's just send New Jersey into the ocean and just turn Nevada back into a desert. We'll be good to go. And then the last question we have comes in from Jeff, which is, what normal chore or location could be turned into a horror movie? Which is really fitting, because I feel like cleaning's window service was a chore that turned into a horror really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really do think that similarly, a power wash simulator horror game would be freaking dope.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's see. I think like a horror movie about like a cleaning service going in to like service an old hotel or something like that, and then shenanigans ensue could be fun.
Yeah.
If you're talking about like normal chore or location.
Yeah. Just trying to pick up the Overlook Hotel and see what happened.
Like what if y'all got locked in it's like the overnight stock crew at a Walmart or something like that, and the Walmart gets invaded by a paranormal entity. And, like, somebody gets beamed in the head with a pickle jar and just gets killed. It could work.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, so normal chore or location if you turn to a horror movie. I'm going to say doing the dishes, the horror movie. Not because I don't know, just because I don't know what that would look like. I think it could be interesting. I'd like to see somebody turn doing the dishes into a horror movie.
You could do it like a vlog. Like, someone's just doing dishes and talking to the camera or whatever, and the window behind them, like, they're not paying attention to what's happening outside. So it could be like all of the shit going on out there, and the person inside's completely oblivious to it. So like it could be like a nuclear dawn, and there are zombies, and she's just oblivious until one at the very end breaks in and kills her or something.
Like they're doing a TikTok live and all this shit is happening in the background. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be for the Gen Z.
All right, that wraps it.
All right then, boys. Nate, we appreciate you coming on, buddy. We hope to have you come on again when something piques your interest, my good sir. And we are going to transition now into part 2 with Mikhailov to talk about Higurashi, When They Cry. We are back for part 2 of the Spooks. We have taken Nathan and put him back at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. And now we have went to the bottom of the crypt, to the deepest grave. And we dug out a mummy. And when we unwrapped him, he said only one word. Cute. Mikhailov, how you doing, buddy?
How?
Are you doing well, perhaps?
How?
Done.
You.
See, me and Willie have already talked about what we've been up to and all that. It's just you, motherfucker. The spotlight is on. What have you been up to? What do you got? What do you want to tell us before we get into the story?
I mean, it's been a legit week, and you guys made me play some freaked out shit.
Yeah, even when this game was initially picked for this month, like, we had to kind of pull our, like, scheduling around at the last minute because we didn't realize it was this long of a single chapter episode thing. Like, this is essentially us doing 2 episodes in 1 week.
Yeah, I thought originally I was going to play a demo of something, and to be fair, I did play a demo of something. That demo turned out to be a 10 to 12 hour game.
Right.
That wasn't even really a game.
It's like one of those nifty things where it's like when you get the game, you can continue off where you left off.
Yeah. I feel like, well, do I even want to talk about this right now? Because
I think we need to hear what you've been up to lately, week. That's the thing. That's what we're really asking.
we're going to blow past first impressions like the wind blows past Willie's mustache.
Oh.
No. First and foremost, motherfucker, what have you been up to? How have you been?
I'm
You
good.
said it's been a week.
It's been a week. I actually had planned out and written down what I was going to say for what I've been up to since we played Dungeon Munchies. And yeah, I don't know where I put it, and I don't remember what I've been up to this week other than grading papers and grading more papers. End of the marking period sucks.
Have you searched in your asshole?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's where these kids' grades are right now.
There's grades coming out the ass. Just grades.
like-
You're just shitting A's, B's, and C's.
I mean, I have 5 classes of 28 each. So we're talking like between 140 and 150 kids this year. And I legit have one class of 28. 10 of them are passing.
Ooh.
Ugh. Have you tried guiding them better and making sure that they understand your material? Because it sounds like they're really flunking out of your curriculum.
Not mine. The city spent millions of dollars on it.
Wow.
Man, that's what I've never understood. Is like, why don't they let teachers build their own curriculum if they know the subject? Like, so the problem here in Florida for the longest time, and I had this conversation with a teacher recently. I think I talked about this on Yab's Pod, but it's fitting for the conversation. She said that graduation here in Clay County for the longest time was based, or the money the school got was based on FCAT scores, which is the standardized testing. So you have to teach for the standardized test, and then after that, they don't give a shit what you teach for the rest of the year.
I believe that this is what basically a Bush No Child Left Behind era policy that a lot of states are still struggling through.
Yes,
Like-
that's exactly what it is. Education has not been right since young Bush.
Well, so now in Clay County, they have changed it where standardized testing no longer matters. It is graduation rate. So Clay County is now letting kids graduate that shouldn't graduate based on their grades and stuff. So the school gets more money and they look better. I'm like, that is going to cause a huge issue. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
That's the definition of the concept of a perverse incentive.
Plus, during COVID, kids could legit not fail. If a kid got a bad grade in something, it was chalked off to either computer error or COVID stress or whatever reason they could come up with to not fail a kid. So kids legit did not fail for like a year and a half. And so they got used to doing nothing and getting credit for it. So now in comes
Actual school.
I was trying to think of like a way to make Mikhailov sound tough, and I just, you know what, there's just nothing.
Here comes big bad Mick, baddest man
Big
with a
Dicky
big old
Mickey.
dick.
Well, see, that was the problem. I was gonna say Big Dick Mick, but then like I realized that's probably not a good thing for a teacher to go in saying.
Well, we were the ones that said it, not you.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, you've repeated it, so you're going to eventually get canceled on some kind of political broadcast.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, it's
I'll
a
see
better
you guys
rhyme than
next podcast after I get out of jail.
it would make a better rhyme than like other names that you go by, because it could be Big Dyke.
I don't think that fits him in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly. Does Big Dick?
I wouldn't know.
No.
Was that a test?
No, I was gonna say I've had this conversation with Mikhailov before.
We've had this conversation.
I was just saying before the podcast, it sounded like I was about to find out, but that was then. This is now.
Bringing it right back around. Mine's about 3/4 of a Coke can.
All right. Well, so, anyways, so school.
Sorry for the visual comedy. I pulled up a small little hair comb and have just been kind of like dragging my thumb up it, trying to figure something out.
That's okay. I found a horror-related shirt to wear.
Oh, nice.
The Wyatt Six. It's the the horror group from WWE. But I found that I'm like, it's not even doesn't even matter. For one, you can't even see the logo in my profile right now, and this is not a visual medium. So I was like, I'm gonna put on a horror shirt anyway. It's like my mom and dad.
I said I was gonna put on a hoodie before we started recording, and that never happened. So
my mom and dad have
you just have to
shirts.
Look at my face and just see horror. So
yeah, every Saturday when they watch Svengoolie, my mom bought them 2 Svengoolie shirts. So they put on their Svengoolie shirts and then sit in the living room together and watch Svengoolie.
Nice.
I do have a Svengoolie t-shirt.
Yeah, he's the man. Svengoolie, listen, this is the whole Halloween episode. Shout out to Svengoolie.
Yeah, Svengoolie absolutely rocks. The tradition of your Vampiras, Elviras, Mystery Science Theater 3000, shows where you just bring us a silly horror movie. Maybe it'll be good this week. Usually it won't, but you'll just goof on it, gaff on it, and have fun showing it to us. We love that. And it's absolutely something that's carried me through decades of television.
I do, absolutely. And the way that every episode ends with him getting back into his coffin and everybody's chucking rubber chickens at him and he's just shielding them away while he's giving the outro spiel is just tremendous. And
the shirt I even says genuine chicken chucker on it or something like that.
That's awesome. They've been doing double features throughout Halloween because it's, his month basically. And the last couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, it was some movie I don't remember and then Labyrinth.
Oh, wow.
And then this last Saturday, it was some movie I don't remember, and then it was The Dark Crystal. And I'm like, what? He's doing some Jim Henson shit. That's cool.
That's why I associate those 2 movies in my head. Because I'm like, they don't have any cast in common. But yeah, Labyrinth and Dark Crystal are both Jim Henson children fantasy that is weirdly scary.
It's not for kids. Yeah. It's it's weird teen.
It's for kids, but it's to mess your kids up.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both great movies. And yeah, it's some of his puppetry at his best.
Oh, absolutely. Just incredibly creative designs.
And of course, I started walking around the house quoting Labyrinth, and my mom and dad say they've seen it, but they didn't get any of my references. So
you remind me of the Babe.
Yeah, I did that. I did that whole thing. It's like, voodoo, hoodoo, you do. Do what, sir? Remind me of the Babe. I did that whole thing. I did the, come inside, have some tea, meet the missus. You don't want to go that way. That way leads you right to the castle. And I also did, smell bad. And
the Swamp of Eternal Stink or whatever it was called.
None of them landed. I'm like, y'all need to watch this fucking movie tonight.
I have not watched any Halloween themed movies yet.
Well, obviously we've both watched Aliens this month.
Yeah.
Or Alien, sorry. Yeah. I said Aliens, but you know what I meant.
I watched Alien, and then I've watched a lot of YouTube horror adjacent things. But I typically wait till Halloween and Hallows Eve, which I think is tonight, technically.
Yeah, we are on now. No, well, All Hallows Eve is the night before All Saints Day, so it's just the night before November 1st. So
okay.
All Hallows Eve is even deeper in. But we're in the zone now. We're in Halloween Eve, if you will, although that makes no sense to
say.
You
were going to say Halloween's nuts.
Now I'm mad I didn't. That would have been a good follow-up. I'd be like, I can't land this plane. Let's do Old Faithful.
Let's just crash right into the ground.
I'm Sully Sullenberg, and this is Jackass.
Wait. Isn't he the guy who landed the plane?
Yeah.
That is, yes, that's where I was going with that.
Landed on the lake or something like that.
Yeah.
He landed in the Hudson Bay.
Yeah,
He successfully crash-landed a plane that was going to be in mortal here in Hudson Bay, leading to basically no serious injuries because he did it so professionally.
He was recognized for years for that, too.
Yeah, absolute.
I bet it.
Absolute skill play. A guy like that does such a cool move, saves so many lives in a clutch situation, deserves it.
Absolutely.
I feel like had it been the 50s, it'd have been Rock Hudson, and he'd have been like, oh, yes, you could land in me. Zing! I'm going to let Truncate Silence do its thing. They're both just staring at me.
Oh, I made a little snicker sound.
I'm reveling.
If that makes you feel any better.
Okay, it does. But I'm reveling in it. I'm reveling in the Mikhailov stare of disapproval. It's the same
I'm
look
not
he gave me.
disapproving. I'm waiting for the conversation to pick back up.
You shouldn't
combing my beard.
truncate this silence. Let the dead air just spread my
Water's
disappointment.
Flowing underground.
Let it just spread across the radio waves.
Several.
He flies
around. He flies around the town. Anyways, so
Of all the songs that you get stuck in my head since I've known you, Dalton, there's frickin' Stormy, Stormy, Blood, Blood.
And there's also Shikanoko Kosh
And there's no frickin' You got my son singing that song.
It's so catchy. Dude, but my favorite one that I'm proud of is I got you with the Stormblood thing because Willie, you don't play Final Fantasy 14, so I don't know if you were ever privy on this, but the song for Stormblood, like
very like feudal Japan like.
And there's like some singing going on that you can't really understand. And I always said they were going Stormblood, Stormblood, Stormy, Stormy, Blood, Blood, Stormy, Stormy, Blood, Stormy, Stormy, Blood. It's so stupid. I would always do it though, like because it played every time I loaded into the game during that expansion. And I just happened to bring that up to Mikhailov one day. And he messages me like a week later. He's like, I cannot stop. Stormy, Stormy, Blood, Blood.
Dude, I love the little weird like musical, like just writing lyrics to songs. Deceased former friend of me and Mikhailov had lyrics for Bloody Tears that was just like, bloody tears, they're my bloody tears, they're my bloody tears, and they're so bloody, buddy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't know much about the story. It's not for the air right now, but
yeah,
tragic from what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool dude, though.
He was absolutely cool. He did play Ragnarok Online.
I bet he did, actually.
He did. He was on there with us.
And then there's always the case of I do a vocal cover that I don't like, and then it gets stuck in Willie's head for like 2 weeks.
Oh, what was the one that was a very recent one.
Yeah, it was Escape from Hellview by CKY.
It was Escape from Hellview, yeah.
You know what's funny is I was in the car with my dad.
Now I was waking up, my only mistake is to bleed.
It's such a good song, dude. I was in the car with my dad, and I was listening through music that's just on my phone, and my cover started playing, and that one came on, and I was like, oh, I didn't really like this one, but Willie liked it a lot. My dad's listening to it, and he goes, how do you get your voice that high? And I was like, it's just practicing singing over the years. I've gotten where I can sing higher than I used to be able to. He's like, shit's impressive, man. I can't do that anymore. My dad used to be able to sing a lot higher than he does now, but he also started smoking cigarettes again. So
that'll do it.
Not good for you.
So he could sing Megadeth.
I think if I put on Megadeth, my dad would just kind of look at me and then just kind of go back to doing what he was doing. He would appreciate it for what it is. But I remember the first time I showed my dad Dragon Force, and he was like, this doesn't impress me. They're just playing a lot of notes fast. Then one day, I became a player that played stuff like that, and he sat there and watched me shredding and was like, okay, seeing it in person and watching how fast your fingers are going and the movements that you're doing, I can see why it's impressive now. He goes, but just listening to people play that fast just didn't really do it for him. And I was like, I can understand that, but telling me that it doesn't take, like they're not really playing guitar because they're just playing a bunch of notes fast. It's like, motherfucker, you just shut up, because that takes some skill.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also, I get the counter argument too, which is just saying like, just because Usain Bolt can run faster than anyone in the world doesn't mean he'd be a great NFL wide receiver. You know?
Oh no, absolutely.
Just because you can play a million notes doesn't mean you're making awesome music. Dragon Force is definitely for a specific. Well, Kerry King is not even playing notes; he's just hitting things and hoping they're kind of audible.
I mean,
no, Dragon Force is definitely. It's like people who like power metal and speed metal.
Yeah,
and
I'm not busting on Dragon Force personally. I'm just saying I see the counter argument. Usually it's the more technical prog shit where I get the exact same thing where it's like, okay, well you've made something in 17/8 time signature with mixolydian dominant scales and all that, but you didn't write a tune that was interesting. You just went over the whole time. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to care about that for?
I need you doing that over and over again in a loop.
What, just...
I'm pretty sure I can weave that into a YouTube intro somewhere.
Yeah, you could do it as a transition. You could start doing your fingers like
like Wayne.
Wayne's World.
It's a dream sequence.
We'll do the mega happy ending.
But yeah,
which we did not get in this game, I might add.
No, and we'll get to that.
Oh, we had a choice.
I was playing guitar one time in front of my dad, and I was playing with distortion. I said, you know what's great about playing metal? And he said, like, what? And I said, if you kill the distortion, and I turned the distortion off and was still playing when I was playing, I was like, it turns into jazz. Really fast jazz notes. And he got a good chuckle out of that. My dad's also playing
usually
guitar
metal leads are way more repetitive than jazz leads.
So, speaking of music,
You can't get away with just going diddly 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 in
Well,
jazz.
no,
He would sound ridiculous.
Speaking of music and Willie going diddly 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 diddly, I taught my son this week how to sing the first part of the Final Fantasy Victory Fanfare.
That
Not-
part?
Well, no, the whole line.
Oh, I got you. So not the dun, 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 dun,
I-
dun, dun, dun.
I tried, but that was a little too much for him. But I did get him going around the house yesterday going da 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 da.
Nice.
I'm glad that your child now has the incredible vocal ability of an average African gray parrot.
Listen, 2 weeks ago he was running around the house going shiki noko 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 koistan tan. So
Next, you gotta teach him. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the next
gotta
one I
get
gotta
balance.
do.
Oh, boy.
You guys, come now. If you want it, another world awaits you.
I mean,
His son's gonna come in one day and just be like, oh, wow.
he might have done that before. He might have heard that song on the radio and started doing that.
It's the Final Fantasy to metal pipeline.
There's another song that you guys are both going to appreciate this.
Oh yeah.
His favorite song. Now keep in mind, my son's 4 and he was 3 at the time. His favorite song for the longest time was "Peaches" by the Presidents of the United States of America.
That's really cute.
So-
I really do like that a lot, actually.
So-
In a can. They were put there by a
But there
man.
by a man.
So the only part he really got was, so imagine a 3-year-old walking around, going to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches. And like, there's so much freaking like to read into that song because he's not actually talking about the dang fruit. And
Plot twist. He is talking about the fruit.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of peaches do you think are
Wait,
put in a can
he's
by a
talking-
man in a factory downtown?
Yeah, here's the funny thing about President of the United States of America. They did that song. They did Lump. It was their 2 big hits. They did one album.
Yep.
They did an interview on MTV, and they were like, what inspires you guys? They said, we wrote this album to make money. If we make money, you'll never see us again. They made a bunch of money, and they never released anything ever again.
That's so based,
so
dude.
wait, I grew up thinking that song was talking about a woman's privates.
Well, I'm sure it's
Right, yeah, I mean,
it's
because that
innuendo
is
that way.
like Nicolas Cage, I could eat a peach for hours, that sort of thing. I could see where that... Which is funny, too, because, like, if you ask kids today, peach is an innuendo for butts now. It's a completely different thing.
Yep, she got a peach. She got them apple bottom jeans and them boots with the fur. I guess
That's more
not-
from our day, dude.
That's not kids
You're
anymore,
talking
huh?
about the same generation that gets a chuckle out of a head popping out of a toilet singing a song from Bangladesh.
Skibbity.
Yeah.
Skibbity toilet.
I'm sorry, yeah, you're going to insult... Are you... If you want to insult our skibbity sigmas out in the audience, you're going to siggity sug my nuts, dude.
Yeah, you got that Riz, Willie.
Papa Meat.
Thank
I was watching
you,
Papa
thank
Meat the other day, and he has a video about how Skibbity Toilet is taking over the internet, and he doesn't know why. He compared it to like Slender
I
Man.
gotta check back in with Papa. Yeah, I think Slender Man's a really good comparison. I think Slender Man was kind of our generation's equivalent to this. But I gotta check back in on it too, because you showed me like 3 or 4 videos from him, and every Papa Meat video I've seen, I'm loving. Sorry, I'm like tripping over my words because I'm talking super fast. Like I said, I had 2 coffees before, and I'm about halfway through this Diet Coke.
Somebody's
That's
not
24
going to
ounces.
bed tonight.
Papa Meat is
Well,
good
I've
stuff.
already messaged 2 people saying, you 2 fight over after who I'm playing video games with afterwards.
Papa Meat does good stuff, dude. Plus, I gotta rep.
I still have the Wendy's video open. That's what I'm watching next.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I gotta rep my fellow funny fat guys.
Yep.
But
You also sent me the one where he had the awful flesh oven that was judging frozen pizzas with him. That
Margaret.
was wonderful. Margaret, yes.
yes, dude. I love Margaret. She's hilarious. Yeah, all his characters, like Winston the computer that's alive, is great too. Margaret's husband's just a giant nose. It's it's just tremendous lore. But yeah, speaking of lore, gentlemen, we played a lore game. But before we get into Higurashi when they cry, we got some obligatory wiki fandom bullshit.
I'm sure this game has a Wikipedia page, though, because it is maybe not the specific game, but the series certainly does.
Yeah, the series had an actual Wikipedia page, but for me to get it down to the info for just this game without giving away a bunch of
I
other
see.
stuff, I just went with this.
I see.
So this arc is called Onikakushi Hen. So Onikakushi Hen, aka Spirited Away by the Demon chapter, is the first arc in the Higurashi no Naku Koru ni series,
released on August 10th, 2002. Preceding Watanagashi Hen, it is told from the perspective of Maibara Kaiichi, who grows increasingly paranoid and eventually violent as he progressively feels his friends are trying to kill him. The first arc does not reveal the cause of Kaiichi's paranoia and the eventual violence, but it implies a possible supernatural influence on him as well as influence from paranoia-induced hallucinations. So, a little bit into why I picked this. A few years back, when I did Doki Doki Literature Club for the show, and I did it with Chris, I looked into other horror-related visual novels because I really enjoyed Doki Doki Literature Club. Shocker, I know.
As well as I did, although I didn't do it on the show with you.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. So I was like, I need more things like this.
It's very popular on Discord. Kana is a very famous super fan with tattoos of the characters.
Yeah, loves Monica.
Shout out to Kana and her love for Monica.
So I tried some other ones. There was another one that I played that was like cooking with your friends, cooking something like things like that. And it ended up being...
I know you also wanted to get Saya no Uda on here for similar reasons too.
Yes.
If you wanted to do something visual novel, but sort of subversive.
Yeah.
I actually didn't think this game was a subversive visual novel. I think this game was a coherent story start to finish.
Yeah, and I would agree. And the two back then that were... I didn't own them, but they looked interesting to me, was The House in Fate Morgana. I think that's how you say it. The House in Fate Morgana. I think that's how you say it. And Higurashi When They Cry. So during COVID, fun fact, was when this first chapter became free. It originally cost money, like all the rest of the games do. But during the COVID lockdown, the developer put the first game out and said, "We're going to make this free, give people something to do." Like a lot of different little, indie studios did at the time. And
I believe the developer is a doujinshi group called the 7th Expansion.
Yep. Yes, you were correct. The 7th Expansion. And they intended on it being free until a vaccine was created for the virus and things went back to normal. I haven't found much information outside of that, but it is still free. And what I'm guessing is that it worked really well as a demo. So they decided to leave it free. That is my takeaway. Because
that makes a lot of sense to me, because if you look at the Steam achievement percentages, people fall off really fast for the first 2 chapters, and then about 24% of people stick around and stick with it hard.
Yeah, it is its own thing. So right off the bat, I think we should just get this out of the way. This is not a game. It is on Steam. It is advertised as a visual novel. I wouldn't even go so far as to call it a visual novel. The developer himself refers to it as a sound novel. And it relies heavily on you listening to the sounds and the music that it is playing in the game while you are reading. And even without the mod, it still has some stuff. We did use a mod, which I will let Mikhailov explain. But there are some moments in the game where it's like, all of a sudden it is just fucking silent, and that stands out so much because of the sound that you're dealing with throughout the entire game and how much that really does mean for the story. It's incredible the way that they use it, and I think we talked about
thematically too when they kind of explained that to you in the last few chapters. I'm like, maybe the show should have been called Higurashi When They Cryant.
Right? It's just when they aren't crying.
Yeah. That's when you need to be really
I don't know that they
attention.
ever stop crying. I think the silence is in the character or characters being so... How do I explain this? Engrossed isn't the right word, but like so...
They're just
even
like locked into one
focused
another.
Is the wrong word. Locked in, I guess, but like so indoctrinated into what's happening that they just don't notice until like the tension goes down.
That's a possibility too.
Numbed, just lacking that survival instinct. Because at one point, the main character tries to like really make his survival instinct strong, and then he realizes how much shit he misses over and over again because he's still just a kid,
But also, it's when he's starting to realize what's happening. It's like it's after, and there's a lot of tense moments in this.
Yeah,
story.
I was gonna say, I think that we may be building up to something that we need to bring up later on when we talk about the plot.
But it's usually after something bad happens or something tense happens. They actually make it a point to say, I heard the cicadas.
Yeah. Actually, I noticed that too. Like, at the end of many of the chapters or the transition points between half chapters, it was like, and then I wept with the sound of the Higurashi.
Yeah.
or there was nothing left, or they were gone. It was just the sound of the Higurashi.
Yeah.
Like literally, like right after these tense, crazy moments is they make it a point to.
Yeah, I think that's where the idea of sound level comes from. That became a motif.
To specifically mention the Higurashi.
And more as the game goes on. I feel like it was less of a thing until about the halfway point.
Agreed.
So, before we get too terribly much into it, I know I threw this at you guys, so I'm curious, what were your first impressions? And Willie, how about you go first, Mikhailov, then you can run your first impressions into the mod stuff. Sound good?
Yeah, because I actually opened the game up before Mikhailov sent us the mod information. And so I watched the introduction sequence first, and I'll be honest, I read the introduction sequence and was really overwhelmed and confused and thought, okay, I've just read the prologue text. I've got to a point where I can dip out of the game. I'm going to dip out and wait until my brain is in the mood to take this on.
Yeah, and I played through the entire first chapter without the mod. Just wanted to throw that out there. So.
Yeah, no, I did not. My first chapter is a really ambiguous term used in this one because what we've played is called the first chapter of Higurashi, but chapter 1 of Higurashi has 12 chapters in of itself.
Yeah, sub-chapters is what they're referred to on the internet webs.
That makes sense. It's actually the term I unofficially used when I was talking about it.
Yeah, so the first sub-chapter, or 12 sub-chapters, yeah. So what about you, Mikhailov?
So, like you, Dalton, I did go through the first chapter without the mod, and I booted this up on a television. I actually did Steam Link or Steam streaming, whatever you want to call it, and I booted it up, and when I full screened it, it was 4:3, and I'm like, this is an older game. The artwork style in the backgrounds was very blurry, almost hand painted, and you start the story with kind of the end, and what you're hearing at the end is just the sound of what originally I thought was somebody getting dismembered, because that's just what it sounded like. It sounded like object hitting flesh. And it came with all the sounds that went with it, the sounds of blood splatter and all of that. And you don't know what's going on. All you know, and because all you're seeing is the words, and you're hearing the sounds, and you're hearing the Higurashi as this is all happening.
And it keeps talking about somebody apologizing over and over.
And it keeps talking about somebody apologizing over and over. As a matter of fact, the first like 3 lines that you read are basically about like being forgiven.
Not you. He was doing that to Nate.
Oh, what?
Nate popped in while you were talking and then popped out.
Oh, I did not even see. Usually I see it pop on the screen. Well deserved, Nate. Good for you. So, and now you made me lose my train of thought.
You were talking about forgiveness and all that? Yeah,
it's all about forgiveness and like, you know, it's fine if you don't forgive me, stuff like that. I don't remember exactly how the line goes. And it starts off knowing that you are listening to a murder. And then the tone completely changes. And I got to about chapter 2, and the reading style originally for this is in the background you had like hand-painted backgrounds. The sprites were updated. And so I thought that it didn't fit.
Oh, I have some information about that. So when it was released over here in America, it was done by Manga Gamer. If you look on Steam, that's the publisher. And they were the ones that updated the sprites for the Steam release that look like almost like Doki Doki-esque style characters. And also, because this game came out in 2002, it had that old school visual, like you said, it was in 4:3, and it had the old school visual novel thing of the text covered the entire screen.
Right. That's actually what I was going to get into next, because that was a little jarring. Like, I think I would have been fine with it if I was reading a book, but this was not what I was expecting from a visual novel.
One other thing is you're talking about the backgrounds. This is another thing I found in my research, is that the guy who made the games, I can't remember his name, sorry sir, but he went around and took photos in Japan and then used those as the basis and then painted and made the backgrounds. I don't know if he did it in digital art or if they're actual paints and scanned, but yeah, they're based on actual photos.
I mean, and by
They
themselves,
look like touched up photos digitally.
Yeah,
The old version.
and by themselves, they're probably fine, but they were mismatched with the updated sprites. And then on top of that, you had text that was kind of hard to read, not in the sense that it was like illegible, but in the sense that you were not quite sure who was talking when.
There's just a wall of text
Yeah.
blocking out half of the screen, and then
No names.
it was a little. Yeah.
So
And then also, quickly, did you, because I know even before the mod, you could do this in the options menu. Did you swap back to the ham hands?
What?
The original?
I looked
yes,
at
I
the
did.
original art, and my God, those.
I did do that.
Oof.
They call them the
I actually
video I watched.
swapped during a couple of critical scenes just to see what it looked like, even.
Now, there are certain scenes where they insert
A CG,
and
graphic that,
it looks way different than especially if you were using the original sprites, it's going to look way fucking different. But yeah, those original ones, they're very of the time.
Yeah, they look very amateur doujinshi art. They remind me a lot of the early Toho games, like between 6 and 8, before Zune had any sense of perspective whatsoever, and just drew girls whose 2 eyes were 3/4 of the horizontal space of their face.
Yeah.
And the hands, as you said ham hands, and yeah, Dana-chan especially had insane, 4.5 finger lump modules.
Yeah, they're basically some of them are like almost like Powerpuff Girl hands, just rounded with thumbs.
Yeah.
Which makes me kind of glad that the sprites are not like that anymore, because I think some of the later scenes in this story would not be taken as seriously if you still had that old sprite style.
You say that, but the diehard Higurashi people say that those original sprites have the most expressive faces.
Okay.
So
I
I
see
don't.
it, but on the other hand, maybe that's the charm too. But my God, I am really glad you hooked us up with the.
Oh yeah, me too. Do
Not
not
only
get me
this,
wrong.
but basically the mod that Mikhailov found brings it up to the Switch version, I believe, including
PS3.
a full set of voice. Oh, PS3.
Yeah, I believe
That's
they-
why
a
it
full
looked
set of
crystal
voice
clear
actor.
after you put the mod in.
Yeah, I think it was PS2, PS3. I think it was PlayStation sprites, but it's the same sprites that they used on the Switch release. You are correct.
Oh, okay. The sprites were Switch, but the voice acting was from the PS2, PS3. Okay, gotcha.
So I ended up keeping the sprites from the PC version, because I don't know, for whatever
The
reason.
Manga Gamer one?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I liked them better. I don't know what it was. Maybe
I
it
can
was
see that.
because it's what I first saw when I booted up the game. But I also,
I switched back and forth a few times.
yeah, but I also did appreciate the console sprites, because I thought that those were better drawn. I thought they were better representations of the characters. But because I had started with the PC sprites, I kind of, for consistency's sake, I just kept it at that.
I had swapped over. I use the console sprites personally.
Yeah, same. I went basically the console experience in the end.
And I also, a couple things in that mod, I set the music to whatever the most updated BGMs were. And then I also...
See, I think this is where we're going to end up with a bit of a clash, because I used the oldest of the sets of BGMs, and you talked a lot about how you thought the music was awesome. And I thought the music was entirely serviceable at best.
There was a specific song that was rad. There was also a song in this game that is the Chocobo song, but legally distinct. At least in the thing that I was listening to, because they went do 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 do. It sounded so close to the Chocobo song.
I wonder if was that the song like the Wacky Hijinks theme?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. The one from the version I played was just really irritating, like doo 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 doo
Oh.
doo. Like it was not good. A lot of the scenes when the game tried to be funny played off really great. A lot of them where it did also felt really flat, and I know we're whiplashing around a bunch, but I think this is a weird total package, so I don't know what the structure you had in mind is, but I would love to talk about the characters, the writing, all of that. Right now we're on the mods and the creation of the game.
So,
Yeah.
I do have to ask, who was your favorite character out of all of these?
Well, hold on. Before we move
Yeah,
on.
we haven't even talked about the characters yet, dude.
Hold on. The one thing I have to know about the mod is it's very critical. Did either of you fuck with the censorship level?
I need to find out more about that. I left it at level 2.
Left
I
at
did
level 2,
not
that's the
touch
recommended.
it, and I did notice that a couple of words were censored.
Okay.
There was a really weird couple of scenes. Okay. There was one 3-minute long sequence where the word kill and die were repeatedly censored out.
That is
And then
that is still censored with 0 on. So that's
the part that
contextual.
weirded me out the most was there was also one other word that was censored in the game. And it was in the sprites, or not in the sprites. Maybe it was censored out in the original audio too. But the word tonkatsu was bleeped out once, like pork cutlet.
Huh? I don't know if maybe that was a maybe like a slang.
When it's so late in the game that we're gonna have to eventually get past the spoiler wall before I can tell you about that one.
Well, so the reason I brought up the censorship thing is because I set it on 0, right? So there was none, which basically means that there were some scenes that I got to that had no voice acting because the voice acting is from console versions, and this shit didn't make it to the console versions, right? Okay. One of them is towards the beginning of the game where Mion basically looks at your crotch and says, "My, how you've grown," and you threaten to whip it out. Yep. That was cut from the original version, or from the console version. But
I'm going to guess most of the game of President also was a little bit bleeped out.
That I'm not sure. I got voice.
That part to me was the part that was the most irritating, just because it kept going on and on and on with it.
But he got his comeuppance at the end when he had to put everything.
He
on
does,
himself.
yeah. I think they stick the landing in the end. But for all, I'm like, I really do not need any PG-rated, sexualized high school tropes at this point in time. Thank you.
I mean, especially considering 2 of the main characters are like
12.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the exact ages they're supposed to be depicted at, but I definitely got the idea that Mion and Nena are supposed to be like your age, and the other 2 girls were like 3 or 4 years younger.
But the censorship, though, so on the console versions, it's not Colonel Sanders. Did you guys see Colonel Sanders, or did you see Colonel Randy?
I saw Colonel Sanders.
You saw Colonel Sanders, but the name they used in the voice acting was Kentakun.
Yeah, so they changed its name in the console release. In the English language for the console release, in the the text, it was Colonel Randy.
Colonel Randy.
Yeah, they were looking for Colonel Randy. But she wants the Colonel Sanders statue. And we can kind of get into characters and story now if you'd like. That was basically all I had left about the mod, was I wanted to know where you guys were at on the censorship level. Of course, you know me, I turned that shit off.
I didn't even see that toggle.
Oh, yeah, as soon as I loaded up that mod, I went through each little section of it and just scanned through what all the different stuff was.
Yeah, so my understanding was that the idea of that toggle was that it has levels 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it basically just makes the voice acting match the script they ended up using.
Gotcha.
So 2 is the one that kind of gives you the most neutral correspondence between the 2. 0 gives you the fully uncensored script, but also means there are some unvoiced parts.
Gotcha.
Pretty much.
The reason I ended up looking up that mod in the first place was because I kept seeing screenshots where the dialogue was so much easier to follow because instead of the wall of text, it actually was like the dialogue.
Yeah, adventure game style thing. Where
game style dialogue with the character's
third
name and then what they're saying. And then in between, there was obviously regular narration where there was no name. But that, I couldn't do it after doing the wall of text for 2 chapters, and after I found that and loaded it up, I was like, thank God, this is so much easier to follow. Plus, things got a lot clearer. It got bumped up to 16:9. The pictures were definitely a lot nicer. The sprites actually matched the background. Yeah. So that mod kind of saved the experience for me. Otherwise, I think I would have fallen off this game pretty quick.
And, so main character, his name is Keiichi Maibara. I think I said that correctly. Keiichi Maibara. And he is moved to a new town. His dad's like some big shot artist guy, though Keiichi does not really know what his dad paints. He's not the most attentive kid. And his friend circle that he's made since he's moved here is Rina Ryugu, I believe is how you pronounce that. Mion Sonozaki, Satoko Hojo, and Rika Furude. That's your core group. You got Keiichi, main character. Rina is the sweet, little redhead girl. She's like the best friend character almost.
When I opened up the game and started making notes, I immediately wrote Lena-chan equals Sayori.
That's exactly.
It isn't exactly how it turns out, but that is immediately what I wrote in my notes.
Yeah, that's the vibe. One of the videos I watched, this guy goes, if you look up the inspirations for Doki Doki Literature Club, Higurashi is not listed, but he's like, but whether or not that guy wants to admit it or not, his game was definitely inspired by Higurashi, whether he knows that it was or if it was just the zeitgeist of visual noveldom. But yeah, absolutely, she reminded me of Sayori immediately. So she meets you every day as you guys head to school, and then on the way to school you meet up with Mion, who is this green-haired girl, who almost gave me like tomboy vibes.
Yeah, she's your sassy upperclassman. She's like the senior student of the class, the senpai or whatever. And she loves to verbally spar with you. That's kind of her whole thing. Like, she likes to see how far she can take it. Whereas Lena is a lot more like a very blushy, everything freaks her out type thing.
Yes, and you learn very early on that the main character loves to pry at Rena and make her blush and feel like what's the word I'm looking for? Embarrassed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Embarrassed. And then,
but then, like, the moment you run into Mion, she does the same thing to you that you've just been doing to Lena.
Yeah. And then you get to your class, and you your introduction to Satoko is hilarious.
Oh, Satoko's intro is awesome, actually.
She is one of my favorites of everybody in here.
I will say her PC sprite looked a lot like the little girl character in Doki Doki. Again, Natsuki, yeah, she reminded me of her. The console sprite, not so much, but the PC sprite, really, that was one of the ones that made me be like, man, this really looks like that Doki Doki engine look of the character, you know? But yeah, Satoko, she is a prankster, a trickster, a sadist, if you will. Because she sets up like something to fall on your head, but you've had this happen before, so you're like, all right, I'm not going to let that chalk thing fall on my head. And then you go inside and you end up what was it? You slip on something and your hand hits the door and there's thumbtacks nailed to the door or taped to the door.
I think you fall into an ink pod or something.
That's right. Yeah,
you almost fall into the ink pod. Keiichi somehow manages to dodge that part.
Oh, right.
But like she gets all this stuff and then you threaten to flick her on the forehead and she starts like, no.
Yeah, you do flick her on the forehead. She starts crying, and then the second she starts crying, Rena gets this like cute face, and she's just like, "How cute!" Yeah,
so Rena has this like trance that she goes in when she sees something cute, and she goes into what they call cute formation, Kyute, cute.
Yeah, every time that she says it, it's usually a kai, not even kawaii. She like slurs it a little bit.
Yeah,
it's kai.
Like, oh, kai. And yeah, and the text is always show SHOKYUTE. Show cute.
Or how HAU.
Yeah, or how.
How is her other? Well, one of her other. She has like a million little vocal things.
Yeah,
and a lot of them get really annoying really quick. Like I got real fucking sick of Lena being like, "Oh, so cute, gonna take you home. Isn't that so? Isn't that so?"
That when she would repeat herself, perhaps.
Yeah.
See, I found that endearing. I thought it was cute.
I found it endearing.
I thought
too.
I didn't. I thought it ran out its welcome really early and was trying way too hard to make this character cute. We already have a bit of a cute overdose.
Well, I mean, this game is pretty notorious for wearing out its welcome pretty quick, which is probably why only like 25% have like stuck it out.
So, speaking of cuteness, though, it brings us to the epitome of the cute character, in my opinion, in this game, and that is Rika, who is this little purple-haired girl who is the sweetest thing on the planet. And anytime something goes wrong, she like will walk over and just like pat your head. It'll be okay. Which again sends Rena into a cute frenzy. But also it is brought up in the game that when Rena is in cute frenzy, she has superhuman strength and can just beat the shit out of people.
Yep.
Because it's like you hurt when you flick what's her face in the head, all of a sudden like you're on the ground before like you can blink an eye. You've been punched and laid out, and it's Rena.
I believe elbowed on the first run.
It happens to Keiichi and it happens to Mion quite a bit.
Yeah, they get leveled a few times throughout this.
Yeah. But also, Riku was kind of advertised as the only character who could really adequately explain something.
Oh, right, because all the others would really love to be cryptic, and then like Riku would just be like, you know, we're going to play a game. Yeah. Whereas everyone else was like, we're going to destroy you within an inch of your lives and grind your bones into paste.
And you're going to have a penalty. And she's like, it's like this game.
We're playing tag.
Yeah, we're
but
playing
everyone's
tag.
It. Which, by the way...
And then immediately afterwards, Riku was always the only one among us who could actually explain something properly.
Rika,
sorry.
Yeah.
Riku is in Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, I know, that's a Final Fantasy character.
No, Riku is Final Fantasy X. Riku is Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Yeah, what he said.
Something reeks around here.
Rika, leaning tower cheese. But yeah, so that's basically your core crew. And then you come across other characters like Toмотake. So, were you guys creeped out by Toмотake the first time he shows up? He is a photographer, for the listeners.
Very muscly photographer.
Yeah, he's kind of jacked, actually.
Not kind of. He is jacked.
Yeah, he's very athletic looking. He shows up when you and Reina are just like in a construction site digging out like random what Lena calls treasures because she loves cute shit, and so she's looking for cute shit in this dumping ground that used to be a construction site 5 years ago. And all of a sudden, Tomitake shows up behind you and just snaps a pic of you.
We probably should talk about the construction site a little bit.
It'll get there.
Well,
this is the first time we're actually physically there.
Okay.
So basically, it's like a dump, and Rena has found a Colonel Sanders statue that she wants. So she takes you there to show it to you. You're like, oh, yeah, I can help you get that out. And you guys quickly realize that you're going to need more help to get it out. Can't do it with your bare hands. So you're going to come back. I believe that's when Rena runs off to go get an axe because he's like, I think I can get through this. She's like, yeah, I have one in my shed. I can go get that. So she's like, I live close by. And she takes off. So that's when your guy's walking around, and he had heard rumblings that there had been a murder and dismemberment that had occurred at the dam building site, which had been around this area. And that's when it starts. He's looking and he finds this stack of magazines and he's flipping through them. And he finds one that's talking about it. And he's reading into it and saying that, there was this one foreman, basically, who was just a huge dick to everybody. Everyone hated him. And then there was a drunken brawl. He ended up dead and his body was cut up. Dismembered
by 6 different culprits, but one of the pieces was never found.
Neither was the culprit, because everyone else was arrested.
Yeah, 5 of the 6 were arrested.
His right arm and the mastermind were never found, I believe.
So as you're looking at this is when, I think, like, before you find them or right after you find them is when you're talking with Toмотake. And that's when Rena comes back up, and you quickly shove the magazine back into your pocket because you're like, oh, I don't want to be caught with a dirty magazine. What would they think of me in this town that I just moved to and no one really knows who I am?
That's a small town. They all know who he is. He's an outsider.
Yeah, I mean, that's also really brought up a few times, is everyone in the town knows that you're Mayabara-kun.
Yeah, that was interesting to me, too, when they bring that up, where they're like, how does everybody know who I am? They're like, you're a new face. Everybody knows everybody.
In a town of like 300, yeah.
So they see a new face.
But you're at a disadvantage because you don't know everyone else's names, so.
Yeah, and it's like, that. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. It's like, everybody knows who you are, but you have to go by and meet everybody. That's going to be a little daunting. So for the first, let's say 4 or 5 chapters, this game sails through. And it's just pretty much just a slice of life type stuff, right? It's kind of just building up
the main plot point is that you've built a club, or you've joined a club that the 4 girls we talked about earlier have been running for about a year, where they basically play these little fun games, and there's a wager on them. So whoever loses the game has to suffer some kind of like embarrassing punishment.
Yeah, and one of them is like going to pat the principal on the head because he's balding, and he's really like just touchy about it.
To the point where he'll also like basically punch you. Like,
yeah, he's like a Super Saiyan martial artist guy.
Yeah. Kaiichi always describes like he's doing a 3-hit combo now. Oh, he's doing his, like, he describes
he's
like a fighting game.
Meter.
Yeah, like a fighting game, just like the main boss. Like, dude went in there and went full chrysalid, started fucking people up. So then it really builds up with your love for these characters. It builds up this relationship with these girls that you have, and everyone's
to the point where, like, when I originally met Satoko, for instance, I wrote, this girl is the devil. And after a while, I'm like, oh, her being just like a bratty little dork is how she like communicates with us, and it's all affectionate, it's all good, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Again, reminded me of Natsuki being like, I don't read stupid manga unless you want to read it with me. And then I'll read.
She wasn't even like tsundere like Natsuki. She was just kind of a jerk because that's how she was.
Well, so.
But I also love that. Can I bring up this part about the translation too?
Yeah.
I thought in the translation every character had a really distinct voice, and my favorite thing about Satoko was that she always talked in this really prim and proper way, especially when she was like denying some bullshit she just did.
Yeah, I did appreciate that as well because it came through like hearing the differences, like where you could tell it wasn't just one person doing a bunch of different voices, and if it was, good on them because they chose very differentiating voices. Quickly, they play the coolest version of tag I've ever heard. Okay.
Oh yeah, dude! When they were playing the game, I was like, "Oh, that sounds sick!" Actually,
yeah,
zombie tag sounded awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, listeners, if you don't know what zombie tag is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like there's one person that's it, they're a zombie. When you're tagged it's not that you're it now, it's you are now also it. Now there are two zombies, and you spread the plague, and it's the last person standing wins.
So it became this horrifying game of hide-and-go-seek and mafia, basically, because they were also using the other children on the playground as, like, disinformants.
Yeah. It was like, tell me
That
on
was a
the...
really fun scene. I really liked the zombie tag. That was a highlight of this game to me.
I loved how it escalated, just like it would with little kids. You know what I'm saying? It was like they told Mion that her mom was at the gate. So she goes, and then all of a sudden Kaiichi's hiding, and he hears the little kids running around like, where's Kaiichi? We got to tell him. His mom's at the gate. His house burned down. His family's been murdered by ninjas. Like, there's all kinds of just random shit that it's just like, it just keeps building and building. And he's like...
By the end of it, I think that they said something along the lines of, Lena-chan's family has been assaulted by the Gundam Force, and only the Red Comet can defeat them, or something like that.
Yeah, it was hilarious. But it's when you get to the Watanagashi festival that things start getting a little odd, right? So you go through and the festival's all fine. It's all fine and dandy. There's a whole bunch of people there. You guys do a bunch of eating food challenges. You do the gun shooting challenge, which Tomotaki joins you for. And then you watch the ritual itself. And Rika disappears because she is the shrine maiden. And she has to be part of this ritual that you watch happen. Or really you read. But in my head, I was watching it happen, you know. And after it's over, everybody kind of splits off and goes and does their own thing. And then you end up, I don't remember if it's you end up standing by the water for a while, but anyway, you end up separated by yourself. And then you end up walking into Tomotake and a girl, Takano, Mio Takano. And you start talking to them. And that's when he starts telling you, well, they wonder if it's going to happen this year. You're like, what do you mean? He goes, well, someone dies every year on the Watanagashi Festival Day. Ever since the man was dismembered, every year since then, one person dies and then another person. And it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, they're like, but so far, no one's died. So and they're like, it's probably not real. It's probably just a coincidence or someone just, you know, trying to recreate it. Nothing to worry about, kid.
Yeah, from what it's heard, Tomotaki isn't even a resident here. He's just like a frequent visitor who hangs out to take photos of birds like 3 times a year.
Well, that comes into play too,
Tokyo-based.
Because...
It sure will.
Yeah, that comes into play too, the fact that he's a visitor. I won't say more than that right now, but that's actually important.
Him and Takano quickly realize that they have scared the shit out of this kid. And they start kind of like talking him down a little bit. And that's when his friends show up. And that's when they're like, hey, we have to punish you, Tomotake. And here's a key part, right? They need to punish him. So Mion whips out a marker. And she's like, time for your punishment. And she walks up to him and she signs his shirt. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought she was going to draw something on his face that he was going to have to wear all the way back to Tokyo. No, they all just signed his shirt. And then Satoko...
The wear on the face thing is also a punishment that has been used in the Batsu games before. That's what actually the main character was hit with the very first time he lost a Batsu game, was he had to wear an embarrassing, like, drawing on his face all the way home.
Yeah.
And we never even found out what that was. His parents didn't even really bring it up, but he definitely ran into the house with something drawn on his face.
Yeah, his parents don't bring it up, and then he gets distracted and forgets to wash it off, so...
Yeah, so it's technically there the rest of the game. He's just walking... I just like to think he's got a big old veiny penis on his forehead for the rest of the time.
I mean, that was the first thing I thought of, too. Because it's not like these high school-ish age kids are, you know, not a little bit crude, especially Mion.
Yeah, for real. So yeah, you all sign the shirt. Satoko, of course, is the only one that writes something even remotely mean because she can't be the nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone else is like, have fun in Tokyo or come back next year.
We'll beat your ass again next year.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's very like, I don't know.
It feels like signing a yearbook.
Yeah, it's like he's kind of the first like real adult figure that shows up and that the kids are legit like bonded with, outside of like maybe their own parents or whatever, but like they like invite him along, they make him an honorary member of their club, and he just kind of goes.
They don't just jump him into their gang. They also jump him in as a honorary citizen of Himeno's.
Right.
Hinakazawa. I need to look it up. I lost the note.
I think you got it.
Hinamizawa.
Hinamizawa. Sorry.
Yeah, Hinamizawa. Yeah. So here's a good time to bring up tips. So after each chapter, there is a section called tips. And I don't know why they call it tips. Me and Willie had this discussion. Because they're not really tips. They're like little side things to watch that kind of give you...
Gaiden bonus scenes, basically.
Yeah, a little more in-depth stuff.
I think tips is a weird translation. I think it's more of an evidence type thing.
Yeah.
Like little clues as to what's really going on in the town.
Yeah, exactly.
Because up until then, they've been like, why don't you have school uniforms? Why is it all of us shoved into one classroom with different grades? Keiichi, why is your house so damn big? All kind of stuff like that. At the end of this chapter, there's a normal one like that, and then there's just one that is like a police officer talking. And you start watching that, and it's like
Water transfer.
just being normal, chatting, and then all of a sudden they start talking about, all right, well, you need to send a car out here. He might still be alive. I don't think he's alive. I think he's dead. There's, so all of a sudden there's like, oh shit, there's somebody dead. There's something going on. And that's the first tip where you're like, oh, okay. Take that back. The chapter beforehand, there was one tip that was the newspaper article.
Yes.
Yeah.
From
When
the
he starts,
Rag Mag.
Yeah. The tabloid.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
hilariously, the way that ended, where it was super, super serious, and all of a sudden it's like, and by the way, up next you can get 2 for 7 deals down at the blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
just sending your money to... I was like, God damn.
That was one of the better uses of the things are getting wacky and hilarious music in the game, because I'm like, okay, you got me with that one.
Yeah, it's like super tense, and then just drop it into that. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the game has a mixed bag with comic relief, but when it lands, I think it lands well, and I really want to compliment translation, because I think that it is clearly written by a native English speaker who has a great idea of what the Japanese idioms mean and how to convey them to English-speaking audiences.
Yeah.
This is a really good translation.
I would agree with that for sure. Manga Gamer did a good job. So yeah, and from there on, okay, so here's where the game basically just flips, and we can kind of just start getting into the deep stuff now. Because
tune out at any point when you decided you've had enough spoilers, or, I mean, again, this is a 12-hour game that has no gameplay whatsoever, so at some point you might just watch a summary of it if that's what you're into, but if you want to hear us explain it, and you think you want to watch it afterwards, you are a hell of a dude.
yeah, so major spoilers from here on out. So this is when our main character meets Oishi.
Yeah.
And Oishi is a police officer. And he comes to the school, brings him out, starts talking to him, and basically just tells him all of these murders that have happened all kind of link back to your friend group. All of your friends have been involved, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, well, why do you say, why are you telling me all this? Why are you saying this to me? It's like, well, because last night we found a body. It's like, okay. And he's like, do you recognize this guy in this picture? And you see the picture, and the body is laying there with a shirt with a bunch of signatures on it. Tomatake has been killed.
And it was at that moment that I messaged the group and was like, oh, fuck. Fuck.
Yeah, there's a moment in the group chat that was in the middle of the night. It was like 11:30 or 12 at night. I put, oh, shit. And then like 3 or 4 hours later, I put something else. And then at 6 a.m., I was like, holy shit, I just fucking played through the entire rest of the game. Because it was like once I started getting the claws in me, this game had its claws in me. And I didn't do shit but read this the rest of the night. So this is when it starts getting real weird. This is when I'll say paranoia starts coming into play. Because now the main character has this where the guy says, don't bring this up to your friends. So he goes back in and he's talking with his friends, and he has to keep this secret from them, which is eating him up. He doesn't want to, but like now he's like, are my friends dangerous? What's going on? So you end up finding out that there have been more murders. Every year on the Watanagashi, someone dies. And then as the story progresses a little more, you find out not only does one person die, someone also disappears.
And so they call that spirited away or demoned away.
Onikakushi.
Yes.
Which is a play on, I think, Kamikakushi? Is that what it is? The spirited away?
It sounded like Kami, yeah.
Kamikakushi. So your character just starts becoming more and more paranoid. So it leads up to this scene with Rina where he's asked Rina and Mion both about the murder and the dismemberment, and they are both very coldly, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you know anything about it? No. Like, they do not want to talk about it. They shut that shit down and change the subject, right? So
I also should point out that they don't super cold. They don't like be like, no, and don't talk about it, but the way they say it, the character reads a bunch into it. Like, they clearly don't want to talk about it.
Now,
so we're also talking about Keiichi's specific reads on what they're saying.
That is something missing from the manga. Not the manga, excuse me, the anime. The anime does not have Keiichi's internal monologues.
Yeah,
which I think
I could see that.
A huge thing that's missing, because like that's a major part is all the stuff that's going on inside of his head, right?
Yeah, because the story is told from his point of view, so we basically have an omniscient first-person narration here. which means that we have his.
We do not have an omniscient first-person narrator. What we have is a what's the word?
I think we have an
unreliable first-person.
No, omniscient means that we could see everything and hear everything in his head.
I get what you're saying. You know what he's thinking.
You know what he's thinking. Yeah, because there's narration where you don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah,
but you also get it from the inside perspective of his head. So it's
it's stream of consciousness in a lot of ways.
I would say it's not an omniscient narrator. I think it's a unreliable first person narration.
I want to go ahead and say it's definitely unreliable narrator because as he starts to lose his mind, things just start becoming weird. You know what I'm saying? Like things become weirder. Case in point.
Although the tip scenes, we do find out shit that we shouldn't have heard. So that's omniscient narration. The tip scenes are omniscient narration. The main 12 chapters, I think, are unreliable first-person narrator.
Well, see, here's the thing about his narration, is that as we're playing or as we're reading from his point of view and getting what's in his head, what we're starting to sympathize with him and against the girls. Because the way the story is told is leading us to believe that, he's still the protagonist. And then, things start to get grayer and grayer and grayer to the point where, I was like, I don't know anymore. I don't know who the bad guy is. I don't know who the good guy is. It's just, everything is just way too blurred.
So, all of that being said, there's the scene that starts it off, that really kicks off the what the fuck, right? It's Rina and it's Keiichi, and they're on their way home. And Keiichi just, confronts her. I know you guys are lying to me. You're keeping something from me. And
referring to the murders that happened very near, and also he's also been told about some kind of supernatural character in here called something
Oyashiro-sama.
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 Probably
Oyashiro-sama.
to note that it was actually a police detective who pulls him out of school to tell him this stuff.
Oishi is a plainclothes detective. I think.
Yeah, he was a cop. He was a copper.
But specifically a plainclothes detective too. They tried not to make it too obvious what was going on. He comes up in a vehicle that's not marked as a cop car.
Yeah, almost like private eye type in a way.
Yes, but he's a plainclothes detective. He works for the
No, I get that. I'm saying the get up though. He had the private eye kind of get up to me.
Yeah.
It's just the way he presented himself. Yeah.
The guardian deity of Hinamizawa is Oyashiro-sama. So he looks at Rina and he's like, I know you guys are keeping something from me. I know you're keeping a secret from me or something. I can tell. And suddenly, as we're talking about the sound counts, sound just drops. And she's like, you're keeping secrets from us too, aren't you? And she moves in closer to him and she's like, you have secrets of your own, don't you, Keiichi? And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's one of the most famous scenes in the entire thing when Rina just goes, lies! Super loud. And it jump scares a lot of people that are using the voice mod, right? And it just goes to this really crazy picture of her face and her eyes look different. And she's like, who was that you were outside talking to at school? You said you went to the principal's office, but you were outside in a car talking to a man. Who was that man? What were you talking about, Keiichi? And it's this whole, all of a sudden your dude gets shut the fuck down. Yeah. He is like, what the fuck?
Not only that, but he becomes convinced that because of that strange look in Lena's eyes, that is not the Lena he's known this whole time. That this is some creature in her body, perhaps?
Or a split personality. Which I think us as readers kind of pick up on, but maybe not necessarily him as the... The only reason I bring...
we get later justification for that idea.
The only reason I bring up split personality is because they allude to it in one of the tips.
Yeah, many of the tips, actually. Yeah. The tips lead you down that being the obvious road, which is why I think that's not what happened.
Oyashiro-sama, Oishi, tells you, hell yeah, by the way, I looked up a little bit about that Rina girl, and at her last school, she got suspended, or, kicked out, basically, because she went through with a baseball bat and smashed every window in the school. And at that point, you're like, how? That sweet girl, what do you mean she did that? So that's when your character starts being a little... So later on in the night, I think he doesn't go to school the next day. He's not feeling well. He's too worked up over all this shit. He's stressed out. He hasn't been sleeping. So he's like, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to... So how nice must it be to be like, man, I don't feel good. I'm going to go to the hospital. And then when I pay my bill and come home. That just doesn't happen in America.
No.
You go to the hospital at absolute last fucking necessity because it's going to cost you the half amount of your house, if not more.
But I also think that because it's a small town, this is the only medical facility in the place.
Yeah, the building is also named as a clinic at some points, too. It's specifically called the Aries Clinic, but he also calls it a hospital in the generic, so who knows exactly how that works.
I should also point out that this game takes place in June of 1983. Just so people know.
Yeah, so there's no cell phones, there's no... there's barely any Nintendo Entertainment System.
They mentioned something about a cordless receiver at some point, talking about phones, but I don't even know that cordless receivers were a thing back in the early 80s.
Might have been
They
in
may
Japan.
have been in Japan.
They've always been ahead of us technically.
Good
It's
point.
like Oishi
Yeah,
was
they
like,
got way ahead of us on cell phone technology, too.
let's go talk in my car. My car's got air conditioning.
Yeah, he's the only person in the nation that has air conditioning, apparently, and that's like a big luxury. And that also lends credence to the idea that he's some kind of private investigator. Well, private investigator. That he is really with the police.
Well, they talk about one time how, like, when he retires, if he keeps his nose clean, like, his boss will, like, up him, like, 2 whole pay grades before retirement, so he gets this massive pension.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Apparently that was something that was going on in the mid-'80s. I can't honestly tell you I know anything about the mid-'80s service social...
Well, there also was
service economy
there
in the
also
80s.
was some very obvious signs that we're dealing with Japanese culture. So there were some things that struck me personally as foreign just because they don't happen here.
Yeah.
Like being able to go to the doctor. Well, it was 1983, so maybe you could have actually just had a $10 copay and been cool.
Yeah, because he went with an insurance card and he paid the bill and he had like money left over to go to lunch.
Must be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
It was the 80s, man.
He comes back home and he's worried. He's starting to get really fucking paranoid. So he makes it look like his parents are still home because they fucked off. They're like, oh, you need to go to the hospital. By the way, we're in Tokyo, like 6 hours away. Enjoy your night. The parents are very, very like not good parents, in my opinion. They just don't really seem to pay attention until the kid comes up to him later on in the clock thing. We'll get to that. But like, so he basically makes the house look like he's home by himself. No.
That's later.
No,
That is later. So
No,
he's actually like...
I think I know what part you're trying to get to. He's
He's
walking home and then a car pulls up.
that's right, and tries to run him over, the van or whatever.
No, even that's later. Unless, did we already talk about the detective taking him into town? Buying him lunch and like giving him everything?
Oh, no, you're right.
The detective does pull... Yeah, you're right.
That's right, after he gets out of the hospital.
After he leaves the hospital, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're correct. They go to the so in the anime, when they go to that restaurant, every girl in there is dressed like a goth. I'll call it like a Playboy Bunny-esque looking thing without the ears, but they all have big jiggly titties and stuff. It's like really explained, like that's why the dude likes going there. Like they kind of explain it in text.
It was implied in the text
it's
of the
implied
game.
like the food isn't great. You come here for the waitresses.
It's Hooters.
It's basically Hooters.
Yeah,
they're at Hooters basically, and they have lunch. They talk more, and I think that's kind of when he reveals Oyashima-san or Oyashiro-sama and all of that, where it's like, yeah, it's actually like a curse, and people actually like they disappear. They don't die in twos. One person dies and then one person disappears. He's like, well, you told me that there was the suicide. It's like, well, yeah, she left a suicide note, but they never found her body in the bog or the swamp or anything like that. There was another person, they never found their body, and there's no explanation. And they're like, oh, it might be Onikakushi. They might be getting demoned away by Oyashiro-sama. And that's when you're like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on?
Well, did we also mention that this whole thing is happening because the government wanted to build a dam and they were basically going to flood the entire town in order to build the dam?
Yeah, that's the dam.
Yes.
Yeah, the dam wreckage site in the first place. The reason it's an abandoned construction site is because about 4 years ago, there was a project that was going to destroy the entire town and destroy like several of the surrounding areas, about 2,000 people's worth of homes, because they wanted to build a dam. And there was a strong protest from the village, and
particularly Mion's family.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where we find out that Mion's family is more powerful than we realized.
Yeah.
And also, that's where you find out that back in the day, Hinamizawa was considered like the demon village.
Yes.
It was the village of the demon people, where they would come into normal villages. They were like cannibals, and they would capture people and eat them. And they had and they say that that's the guardian of Oyashiro-sama. Sorry, I keep having to look over at these names. There's so many different Japanese names, but the Oyashiro-sama was their guardian and their god. And there's something still going on with that. And the Watanagashi festival is something that you release the cotton into the river and let the cotton float down the river, and it's supposed to take away your evils and sins and stuff like that. But it's also supposed to be like this satisfying of Oyashiro-sama in a way where you're giving your they're all giving thanks to him basically.
And they made it a point to say that if like people who did not attend the festival were typically the people who were hunted and killed
in previous years, yes. Which is also why the festival attendance was apparently insanely high this year compared to previous years.
My brain immediately.
On top of that, like there's a point of foreshadowing that actually doesn't end up panning out. But it was kind of like an oh shit moment for me when Keiichi goes home after the festival after hearing all this stuff, and her mom is like, "Yeah, we never made it. Your dad didn't wake up."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was the same thought I had. I was like, "Oh, his parents didn't go."
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, but kids, that's what we call a red herring.
Yes. And well, funny story is that that's actually brought up. That term red herring is actually brought up at some point.
Yeah, I think it's in the epilogue thing.
In the epilogue, yeah.
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 So at this point, you come home from lunch with that guy. You're home. I don't think your parents are there, or your dad's asleep and your mom's fucked off doing something. I don't remember exactly the way it went.
Now, when you get there, that's when you find out. Basically, they're already gone.
Yeah,
they've left for Tokyo, and they'll call you later.
They left. I don't think they had left for Tokyo just yet, but they did like nope out for dad's like work, like some sort of meeting.
Because
so yeah, you're by yourself.
Oh yeah, because we still haven't had the clock scene. You're right.
Yeah, because Mion and Rina come over, and he's like, "Oh, okay, well, if Mion's coming over, they're coming to check on me if I was sick. Everything should be okay. Rina shouldn't act weird around Mion." So you think?
Yeah.
So they show up, and you start talking, and she's like, Mion just looks at him and is like, "What'd you have for lunch today?" And immediately, I'm like, hairs on end. I'm like, "Oh shit, they know." Oh God, they know. And their eyes change.
Yeah.
That's the big thing that you need to pay attention to if you decide to read through this yourself, is when their eyes change.
Both of their eyes changed too, which I think that meant it couldn't have just been whatever psychological condition that Lena-chan had been diagnosed with before. Because it couldn't have just been that.
Yes. So they both start...
That leads me down several different paths, but we'll get to there later, I guess.
They both start coming at him about this lunch and how, like, you don't need to be talking to that guy, yada, 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 Oishi. And they're like, we made some mochi for... Isn't it mochi? Mochi. Yeah, they made some mochi for you. Here you go. One of them was made by Rina. Your homework is to guess which one it was. Have a good night. Feel better. Oh, dude, don't miss school tomorrow. It'd make me so sad if you weren't there, or something along the... And you were just like, oh my... The music is so tense. Like, again, this was a sound really came
it gets
through
worse. It gets worse from there, too.
Yeah.
And so he goes back in the kitchen, and he's sitting there, and he's looking at these mochi, and he's just nervous. And he's like... 4
of them are made by Mion's grandma, and 1 of them is made by Lena.
And he's, like, trying to figure out... He's like, okay, I'm going to... 4 of them look like they came from a batch. 1 of them looked like they were really focused and made. That's probably the one that Rina had. So he picks it up, and he takes a bite of it, and he gets a stinging sensation in his mouth. And he spits it into his hand, and he sees glinting. There's a needle. They tried to feed him a fucking sewing needle. He takes the rest of the mochi, throws it against the wall. The raspberry is just leaking down. Throws it away. He's freaking out. He goes up and he calls the cop. We forgot one major scene. Before this meeting with Mion and Rina. That night after he has the really weird interaction with Rina, she goes home. He goes home. He has the phone call. This is where, dude, this scene fucking gave me the willies, son. And I'm not just saying that because you're here, Willie. And it was like, he's on the phone with Oishi, and he's talking to him about the shit that happened that day and the stuff that he had kind of found out, yada, yada, yada. And after that conversation, his dad's coming up with tea and like scones or something.
Right.
And his dad's like, oh, I figured, I was bringing it up for you and your friend. He's like, what do you mean, my friend? He's like, well, Rina came over. She came up here like an hour ago. And your character's just, I can just imagine his face draining of color.
Yeah.
Cold sweat on the back of his neck. Rina had come in and stood by his door, and it does this creepy CG of him sitting against his wall talking on the phone, and Rina just creepily standing right outside his door in the crack of the door listening to the entire fucking conversation. And then she just leaves without ever saying anything. That's when she shows up with Mion after that. And so you eat the needle thing, you spit it out, and you're like, they're going to try to kill me. And I believe that's when he writes the note and puts it on the back of the clock.
That's when he starts it.
Yeah, and he's like...
Also, there are a few subplots we haven't got to yet, to the point where I almost think we shouldn't get all the way through the ending here, just because there are a couple important scenes we also missed from the tips.
Well,
such as, what was the cause of the photographer's death?
Oh yeah, he tore.
Yeah. You're right. That's important.
he went loco and tore his own throat out.
But after apparently being in an altercation with other people.
That disturbed the hell out of me, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like he had been beaten by a group of people. There was a blunt force weapon around him, but they couldn't tell if it had been used or not. Like he tried to defend himself or not. But yeah, something happened to him, and then he ended up freaking out and tearing his own throat out.
Which I don't know. Like, first of all, the way they describe that is so
very
horribly
horrible.
graphic because
his own claws being bent backwards.
Yeah, but like
his
own, like he ripped his own nails off, and just I don't know, like how, like I can't even picture somebody having the wherewithal to just claw at their neck until they actually break skin to the point where they hit an artery. Like to me, that's like just physically and mentally impossible.
Not just an artery, it's implied that he actually gashed his own trachea, too. Yeah. He was able to pull the windpipe out and stuff.
Yeah, like that's...
So they were wondering if either there was some kind of drug that could cause that, or if this is a case of some kind of possession. Because there's no other explanation, and toxicology turned up nothing on him. Not barbiturates, which is something that they asked about later. Not amphetamines, which is also something they came up with in the tips. Nothing was on him.
Can human hands even actually get that far in?
Not if your central nervous system blocks you from doing it. But if you had enough, if you were high, like basically PCP high,
there's a later tip that describes it where it's like people who are manic depressive are the most dangerous because most depressed people don't have the will to end their life, and most people who are manic get really bursts of jolt of just going and doing random things, right? Well, when you're manic depressive...
But when you have bipolar on the swing from depressive to manic...
Yeah, then suddenly you have the urge to do it. And it's like this whole psychological thing they go into. It's really fucked up.
Yeah. But they also pointed out that Tamagotchi, oh my god.
Yeah.
That, God, I gotta look up his name so I don't feel so stupid now.
Tomitake.
That Tomitake didn't have a history of any sort of mental illness.
Yeah. So they really...
And again, the toxicology report came up clean aside from a lot of basically stress hormones. He was like cortisoled out, but that's about it.
So Protag, just to start making long story shorts, Protag starts getting increasingly paranoid. Grabs a bat, swinging a bat around. There was one of the games that they were playing that he noticed there had to be 6 people. It was basically like Clue.
It was literally Clue,
but a card-based.
They never
game.
said it by name, but it was Clue.
Yeah, and there were 6 killers, but there were only 5 of them. Well, the 6th card was Satoshi, who was one of the people who had gone missing. He had quote unquote transferred out. You find out later on, Satoshi was Satoko's older brother, and the bat that you grab out of a random locker that you said smells like it hasn't been opened in forever is the bat of Satoshi, which is why Satoko has such a visceral reaction in the anime. She has a really visceral reaction to seeing you swinging it around. She's not bothered by it. So you're approached by Rina, and she's like, you guys are walking on the way home. She's carrying an axe. I don't know. I don't know if she is really or not.
I think you're combining 2 scenes because you haven't actually talked about the one where she confronts him about acting like Satoshi.
Well, I think it's Mion that confronts him acting like that, doesn't she?
No, it's
no. Rina runs up to you tear-struck.
Yeah,
right.
and that's the thing too. Is like
Mion is the one that actually asked you to knock it off.
And
that's right.
That's the funny thing about this is that like you start to question by this point in the story what those eye changes and those behavior changes and everything that you're seeing is.
What do they really mean?
Well, not only what do they really mean, but like, are they real? Like, are these characters actually changing, or is it just the paranoia?
Is it?
I would love at the end to get around to what we actually think happened.
Yeah. Is it a demon possession? Is it a paranoia? Yeah, that's the big thing. So here's the thing with Higurashi. I don't even know if we've mentioned yet. It's super. There's a bunch of chapters. The first 4 chapters are considered the question arcs, I believe. So in the original games, when they were released on PC, the first 4 chapters, the question arc was one game.
Okay.
The second game was the answers arc, which was the other games. Manga Gamer split them into singular stuff. So before that, they were all combined. So this game is just like the beginning. There are no answers, which is I think is what's going to be the best part about the ending when we get to talk about what we think happened. Was my biggest excitement about this is because this game gives you nothing. But
yes,
and they call it a sound novel. And if you were going to consider this a game in any way, I think it would be the game that you play with yourself trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Because let's...
Yeah, throughout chapter 10, I'm losing faith in Keiichi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's about when I
becoming
started to... That's when I started to question what we were actually seeing.
Yeah.
He becomes really erratic.
He starts, like, doubling down his thoughts over and over again, where he says something, then immediately argues with himself, like he's got some Joker brain going on.
Yeah. And
Except instead of Joker brain, where it's like he wants chaos, he's just like, I will survive, I will get through this, stop being so soft. But then he can't decide who he actually can trust, so he just stubbornly locks himself down and keeps on arguing with himself further and further until it drives him even more crazy.
yeah, and to culminate it, there's a lot of stuff building up to this moment, but it kind of culminates in this scene where he calls over Rina and Mion, and they come over to check on him. Something, I don't remember the exact details, but they're like, oh, by the way, we never gave you your punishment for not...
No, this was after you flee Reina with the axe. Then you apparently get your ass kicked by two dudes who may or may not exist.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you wake up in your bedroom.
And Rina's actually watching over you. Like, she actually brought you back.
Very sweetly.
And this is where Keiichi starts having, like, blackouts.
Now,
scenes missing in his memory.
In the anime, the scene where the axe scene where she confronts him with the axe, he's got the bat. She actually like chases him and tries to like take swings at him and stuff in the anime. That's not how it happens in the visual novel or the manga. In the manga, he's just seeing her stand over him with the axe raised up, and her eyes are all crazy, and they're having that discussion that they're having about Oyashima-san.
Backing up, running further and further away from his actual path home.
Yeah, and that scene happens right after you had found out that Rina actually beat 3 of her best friends half to death with that baseball bat at her school, and then went and aired out the entire fucking school.
Yeah.
So, and then she starts saying that she's blaming it on Oyashiro-sama. It's followed her. It stands in her bedroom every night. She can see it, and it's just haunting her. She has to go back to Himanazawa, and that's when she ends up going back into Himanazawa and moving back. Because at this point, she tells you that she had moved there a year ago, but actually she had moved away and then moved back a year ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is when you start piecing together, okay, there's this serious demon thing going on. Oishi feels like there's somebody behind him at all times. He feels like this female presence. He thinks it's Rina just on his tail the entire time. Leads up the final scene. He's in there. He calls them. He wakes up. They had taken care of him, and they're like, your punishment. And Mion pulls out a syringe. We're going to do to you what we did to Tomotake. At that point, you're like, what? Oh, yeah. Shit, son. So,
and again, like, at that point, you're still questioning, is this really happening?
Because again, Keiichi also just literally was dragged home by Lena, who tells him the things that just happened. He didn't remember any of it.
Yeah, so at this point, it's like, okay, so they can't be that. Well, then all of a sudden, the switch flips again, and your dude like hoofs Rina in the chest, knocks down Mion, grabs the bat, and starts beating Mion to fucking death. And now, in the visual novel, screen goes black. In the anime, it's a little more grotesque. But I thought this was a good restraint of the author, where he just described it and gave you the sounds. There was nothing for you to see, though. It was all, you had to picture it. As he's beating Mion, and then goes over to Rina, and he hits Rina, and Rina's just looking up at him with a smile as he's hitting her with his bat, and she looks at him and says, believe in me. And he just cracks her in the head one more time and kills her. And now he's got these 2 bodies in his room. He looks out his window. The doctor and the director, quote unquote, that they had called have shown up. It's the white van that tried to run him over. Men come to the door, one dressed as a doctor, the other one are in the bushes. They're all waiting for him. What's going to happen? He has to escape. He goes out the back door. He's going out the back door! They see him, and he takes off running, and he keeps running, and he keeps running, and he keeps running, and he keeps running, and suddenly the cicadas stop, and flashes over. If something happens in between, correct me, but it flashes over, and suddenly you are from the perspective of Oishi, the cop. Now, quick fact about Oishi. There is a conversation between Mion and Rina that your main character is not privy to. I believe it's a tip where they're talking, and she says, Oishi, it's worrying me that Keiichi is meeting up with Oishi, because anytime something bad has happened around here, Oishi-san is around. He shows up, something bad happens. It's like he's the he brings on the curse.
Harbinger?
Or the harbinger.
Thank you. The harbinger. That's the word I was looking for. The harbinger of Oyashiro-sama's curse. So that's their issue. That's explained. That's what their issue is with Oishi. Your character's not privy to that. Your character just is like, why are they being so fucking weird about that guy? So switches to his. He gets a phone call at the police station, and they said it's Kaiichi, and he's talking to him, and Kaiichi's like, they're after me. There was men dressed up. The girls, they try to kill me, yada, yada, yada. And then he just starts freaking out, and Oishi's like, are you okay? Talk to me. Kaiichi, are you tearing your own throat out? They call a cop over there. And then from there, I think it just ends. I think that's where it comes up, Higurashi when they cry, right? Like,
Yeah.
You get a brief post-credits about the findings of the report.
Yeah, you get a police report.
yeah. Now, did you notice the note that he had taped on the back of his clock?
They cut it in half and took away the syringe.
They took away the part that mentioned the drug.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they said the first person on the site was Oishi.
Oh,
dun, dun. Oh, shit.
And that's the end of the story. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an extra scene where you get to just see the cast just chatting about what just happened and
Dude,
all
yeah,
that.
they're all in a
But
diner.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me, I don't know, Willie, if you remember when we played Mega Dimension Neptunia, like the little cut scenes in the middle where it would be like Neptune and a character doing like
yeah,
the TV
Yeah,
thing.
it was kind of like
Yeah.
a fourth wall break. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like,
Very fourth wall. To the point where Milan's like, I think I did it.
Yeah.
yeah, she's like, I think I'm the killer. They were like, what do you think happened, Rina? Oh, I think it was the demon. I think it was Oyashira. So it was a really cool thing. And that's where they're like, that was a red herring, kids. A REDHERRING, red herring.
Yeah.
So
And then I think like
What-
Sakato is like, a what?
there's also a running joke in these games that Satoko can't tell the difference between broccoli and cauliflower. That was a cute little scene.
Yeah, that was cute. And she ended up crying because she actually didn't know.
Yeah.
There were
I
a
didn't
couple
get
of
why that
moments
was
like
funny, and I
that
thought it was kind of annoying.
where she was like, I know what that is. And they're like, okay, explain it. And she's like, starts
I
crying.
know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the one where Mion was trying to get her to say the word sex, and she
Yeah.
just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Come on, just say it.
Yeah. Also, the thing I was saying that was bleeped out earlier was Reina-chan says tonkatsu, which is the kind of pork noodle that you had bought, and that was supposed to be an implication that she'd follow you there. And it says tonkatsu in the voice script, but it's bleeped out for some reason in the actual script.
You sure it's not maybe a slang for something in Japan?
Why would they have
A pork noodle?
bleeped it one time?
Could be like, he's talking about his pork noodle.
I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it sounded like it said cunt.
Yeah,
We'll go with that. So boys,
Happy Halloween.
we've come to the big question. The one that I've been waiting for. What do you think happened?
God, we have to pick like some kind of order to do
Oh,
this
yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
because this is...
Let's I like panda bears, Willie. Why don't you go first?
You're really just going to do that instead of give me some kind of challenge, some kind of batsu,
You have a
perhaps?
panda bear in your background.
There's a panda that's Asian. It's Chinese, but
He
Asian nonetheless.
literally has sprites from more than 5 different Japanese video games in his background.
But I like pandas. I don't like Final Fantasy VI. Chrono
That's
Trigger's
true.
dope, though.
That's true. You don't like Final Fantasy VI.
All right. I mean, so I'm going to go ahead and go all in on my theory, which I don't think is correct. I honestly don't even think my own theory is correct, but I think it's the most satisfying read of this game as a single installment taken past any possible follow-up. If this is the only game in the series, if there's no other stories, what I believe happened is basically, did the original killings, the deaths happened as were said. They were all completely coincidental. The suspicion of Oishi by the girls caused them to basically want to lock that down, and so they were overacting and trying to creep out Keiichi. Keiichi got so creeped out by what was going on that he ended up stressing out, becoming highly overreading into everything, paranoid and delusional, and eventually he basically just killed people for no reasons. I don't think that a group of people even ended up at his house at the end.
Okay.
I think it was entirely due to Keiichi's delusions.
Now, Mikhailov, do you want to go next? You want me to go next before we kind of like give opinions?
I will also say I do dispute my own original theory too, which was I thought Oishi might have dosed Keiichi.
Ooh.
I didn't think about that.
That was one of
never
my
thought about
big
that because
original ideas. He never sees the weird face until after he's met Oishi.
Okay, so here's where I think you might have
And
something
also,
here.
here's the second point too. He also very much is very insistent that he takes his medicine before he goes
That's
back to bed after they have
exactly
lunch.
what I was about to just bring up.
And that's when the freakiest of the scene, that's when the mochi scene happens, and the sewing needle is never found. Not by himself, and not by a later police investigation.
Yeah, but Mion does admit to putting the needle in.
No, she admits that she did some kind of prank.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
that's
never. She
fair.
never mentions a needle. It's you that
That's-
mentions a needle.
That's true.
Mhm.
That is true. And you're right. Like, he can't find the needle.
And if you think,
I think that the strongest evidence is for the idea that he just drove himself nuts on whatever happened. Second strongest is that Oishi dosed him.
And see, I have a different theory, but Dalton, you can go first.
you want me to go next? All right.
Yeah.
So, I think Oyashiro-sama is absolutely real. I think it is a curse. I think Oishi is the harbinger of the curse. He did not start seeing the eyes in the girls until he met Oishi because he was not affected by the curse until he met Oishi. It's
Okay.
I almost wonder if it's like a mimetic thing where he learned about it, therefore he was the outsider. You know what I mean? It's like Tomatake.
It's a very SCP type of vibe.
Yeah, Tomatake died because he was an outsider. So I think that he was affected by the curse. The curse was making him lose his mind. I think the curse was causing him to be
Do
paranoid.
you think Oishi is like a non-symptomatic courier, basically?
Yeah, I think he just like it doesn't affect him because it's just when he shows up, bad things happen.
Okay, that's interesting. I do like that theory a lot too.
I
To the
believe
point where even
that,
like Mion is like, you know, I'll kill you, or
yeah, I'll kill that
See, I
old
think
son of a bitch. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, I thought that scene, it seemed so strongly implying that she actually hated him and wanted to kill him supernaturally that I thought that couldn't be the case.
Yeah.
I also want to double back into one other scene, which is, God, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, because I thought this was basically a checkmate on this. Damn it. Oh, I don't think that the spirit would have possessed Dana to stay overnight weeping in the rain apologizing.
Oh no, that was another major scene when he is freaking out and he slams the door on her hand.
yeah.
And her-
That's when I
and her fingers are
immediately
stuck.
began to think, no, we're doing real damage. This is gone too far, and it is Cage now who is the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that he was possessed. It was driving, and the curse is what drove him insane, is what made him so paranoid, because he just starts thinking about it. And I think the curse was causing him to his paranoia for him to hallucinate. That's why when he saw the girl's eyes go crazy, it was just his mind fucking with him, when really Rina was probably just standing there like having a normal conversation with him. But that's not how his fucked up brain was perceiving it, because
Right.
he's no longer mentally normal. Right? I don't think the needle was real. I think she probably put fucking like sriracha or something in the mochi, and he bit it and it stung his tongue because it was hot. And when he spit it out, he was hallucinating because he's already paranoid and freaking the fuck out. Like,
Yeah.
like I've known a lot of people who did drugs and got whacked the fuck out afterwards. And it's like, it's very similar where it's like, they'll be like, oh, I had a girl on Snapchat that I'm friends with, and I don't know why I'm still friends with her because I don't associate with
So
her
it sounds like
anymore.
you're also leading, like, Oishi dosed him as the number 2 possible answer, too.
I mean, it's a possibility. It's a very big possibility.
It's either Oishi or it's Oishiro.
But the thing is like, I don't think they were gonna. So that syringe that they had at the end, I think if that syringe really existed, if that was real, I think it would have been a medicine to bring him out of this, where they were trying to be like, yo, maybe Mion's family knows more than we lead on. You know, I don't know. But if that was real, I think it was something to help him, not that it was going to hurt him. That didn't matter because he beat his 2 best friends to death and then hauled ass. But tearing his own throat out, the only thing that I can have that I think it was just the curse being like, you've done your part. Now it's time for you to get demoned away, in a way.
All right.
What'd you make a love, old sleepy boy?
So I'm thinking there is a Salem syndrome type thing at play.
All right. I do think that this is a defensible answer if you're saying what I think you're saying.
Well, back in Salem, with the witches and all that, the girls acting erratically was in future studies attributed to something in the food that they were growing that caused hallucinogenic behavior. And this is a town that, for the most part, grows its own fruits and vegetables, to the point where, like, they actually make it a point for Keiichi to say that the food tastes different here.
Oh.
At one
I
point.
like that.
So
And-
with it being the
So you think it's like a hallucinogenic ergot? Like
so-
what happened for like the Dancing Mania and shit
So
like that?
I'm thinking it's very similar to what happened to the girls at Salem who accused people of witchcraft. I think that something in the food or something that generally is generated around the town hits certain people a certain way, probably depending on age, and causes them to exhibit hallucinogenic behavior, which is then attributed to the curse. And so it could have been something in what Rena gave him. It could have been something in the mochi.
Could it be what's wrong with the food is the curse? Because they are technically still living in the village of the demons. Like, that old lore still applies to that town.
I mean, quite frankly, it could have also been like the materials they were using for the dam construction getting into the water supply. Like, here's the fact is that it's happened to multiple people, and it happened specifically to outsiders. So the townspeople are probably, because they ingest it every day, are used to it, or they've adjusted to it, or
build up an immunity,
or it's not noticeable. But for an outsider to come in, like Satoshi, even Rena to an extent, might be able to almost attribute her erratic behavior to, something hallucinogenic or something that she ate. Back in Salem, like, there was no way to trace it to an actual drug. It was just something that messed up their brain chemistry.
A few of the people that died weren't outsiders. They were just people who were for the dam, but they lived from the village.
Well, I'm not necessarily talking about people who died per se. I'm talking about the people who went crazy.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
If that makes sense.
I feel like what we've got here is like...
So yeah, I think that a lot of the behavior is just his hallucinogenic interpretation, but I think there's actually like some type of disease this town has that causes some people to get this paranoia and go insane.
Okay.
I feel like it's really fun that we've come up with 3 different levels where Dalton has a Mulder theory, Mikhailov has a Scully theory, and then I have one that involves a conspiracy that's completely non-supernatural in nature.
You got the Alex Jones theory. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, hey! Wow. That's so unfair, dude!
I'm just kidding. No, but I do think that...
Hey, if you want to see if these guns are not real, come check this shit out.
Them's fighting words.
The mochi's making them gay.
The mochi's turning to Colonel Sanders gay.
It's turning to Colonel Sanders gay.
Oh my goodness.
But no, I think that Oyashiro-sama is trying to keep people out. I think it's also trying to keep people in.
I think that's one of the main theories is the warden theory. Yeah. That it's not a guardian, it is trying to keep 2 worlds separate.
Yes. So
I think that's the theory that the actual text supports the best. But I like my conspiracy theory the best.
It's kind of interesting that I never thought of this from like an X-Files perspective. Like, there could be supernatural at play, or it could be scientific, or it could be a combination. Yep, there it is.
Yeah,
baby. There's the poster.
I want to believe.
Well, I do feel like we've done a pretty good job of definitely exploring the hell out of all we can out of 10 hours of gameplay.
I mean,
I think that when it comes to scoring this game, I'm afraid that I don't think I can rate it as a video game because it straight up isn't a video game in any way, shape, or form. It is a bunch of video and audio and text, but there's no gameplay whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and give it a recommendation if you have 10 hours, are willing to take a slow burn, and are... Again, you have to have nothing else to do for 10 hours, because otherwise play Doki Doki Literature Club 3 times.
Also, you don't have to do it in one sitting. It's roughly the length of the first Harry Potter book. So,
Wizened Willie says, check it out.
Yeah, shout out Tadbog, Tyler Day, play old games. and Ian. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to give this one a rating either, other than I highly recommend it. If you like reading.
Yeah, I can't rate it as a game either. If I rate it as a game, it would get a poor score because it's not a game. There's no interaction. I almost kind of wish this wasn't my first visual novel because I wanted to make decisions and I wanted to affect the outcome and I wanted to interact, and I ended up just essentially reading a book.
Well, now personally that I know that you guys will play through a novel with no of that, I'll start looking for visual novels that have like some cool mechanics and stuff, because there are a lot of good visual novels. Kana bought me.
Yeah, at some point I do think that Hatoful Boyfriend and Valhalla would be great games for this show. And those actually do have at least a little gameplay.
Absolutely. Kana bought me Clannad. I think that's how you pronounce it. Mm-hmm. And like I mentioned earlier, I want to really check out The House and Fate. I think it's Morgana. I probably am pronouncing that wrong. I think I've always pronounced that M word on the end wrong. But
are you allowed to say the M word?
Mikhailov?
Mikhailov.
We gotta bleep that. No, don't actually bleep it. It'll sound like you said something horrible.
That would be funny. It's like I was watching, just quickly, I was watching Creepcast, and Wendigoon looks at the camera and he goes, if you guys don't get us above Ben Shapiro's podcast by the end of the year, I'm gonna, and then it's just this long bleep. And Papa Meat just goes, oh, we absolutely have to bleep that, bro. You can't say that on YouTube. It's just a funny little bit. But I highly recommend. I think this is good for spooks. This was a spooky game. Okay, so there were times
the tension, the dread that I love the scenes where like someone is just like batting down the door of your brain, including the ones where two of them are like at your front door in the game, literally.
Yeah, dude, I want to tell you
the tension built during your characters trying to get out of a hard dialogue scene. As a person with anxiety disorder, I'm like, oh, this is really it though.
Dude, it was fucking terrifying at some point. To the point that I'm playing in the darkness like this. You can see this, and I would go, oh shit. And I'd turn the lights on for a little bit. Like, there was a time where I have a footstool on my chair, and I was sitting with my feet hanging off of it. And suddenly, I pulled my feet up and put them onto the foot rack. I didn't want to dangle my feet. I was so creeped out that I'm like, dude, Yashiro-sama gonna grab my fucking foot. So, like...
Oh, I have to do one with my own physically. At one point during a scene that it was one of the scenes that involved one of the girls at your front door and things being freaky, a ladybug landed in the back of my neck.
Oh no.
As things were getting messed up. And that is the loudest I have yelped playing a horror game for this show, period.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the horror stuff kind of got downplayed a little bit, because I think there were times where I just feel like the game kind of overstayed its welcome. Like, there were some chapters that were just a lot longer than they needed to be, or, things could have gotten to the point a little bit quicker, especially in the last few chapters. Like, there's a long time where your boy is just sitting there going through denial and bargaining and denial and bargaining and denial and bargaining, and I'm like, at least change the scene every now and then. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's jarring, because it's not jarring, but it definitely lowers the tension a little bit, and actually, gets to the point where you're just like, okay, can we kind of move this along here, because I'm not scared anymore, like, I'm not tense anymore, like, I'm just listening to you drone on about what could be, and it's just... That's a feeling I had reading House of Leaves, too, where eventually I just got fucking impatient with the narrator. Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. It was an impatience, like, those later The earlier chapters, I understand them being long because, like, it's set in the scene, like, it's a lot more lighthearted, the horror hasn't exactly kicked in yet, and so, like, it's meant to get you attached to the characters because shit is gonna go down in the later scenes, and quite frankly, this does a great job of getting you attached to the characters. Sure. But then once you start getting into more of, like, Keiichi's head and he's by himself, like that's at the point where, things could have gotten to the point a little bit quicker.
I don't know.
I think you could trim about 20% of the dialogue from this game and probably improve it. I would trim most of the president scene, and I would trim most of Chapter 11.
Yeah, Chapter 11 is where I felt that the game started to overstay.
I think that they could have trimmed some of the game stuff, although I'm not opposed to the slow burn.
Or they could have made the game stuff playable. That would also have been fun.
Oh, yeah, that too. But, I mean, you got to think this came out in 2002, and they were working on a free engine, so they probably were doing what they could. Now, an updated version, they could have added that in, but there would have been people who were like, well, this isn't true to the blah, 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 blah. You know how it goes.
Don't get me wrong. I'm glad I experienced it. Like, it was something different. It was something out of my comfort zone. I just wish I wasn't necessarily just staring at a computer screen the whole time. I wish I was able to click a button or something.
Yeah, we need to get you a visual novel with more traditional visual novel gameplay mechanics, like, cultivating your character's stats, or, dialogue trees, or hell, even in Valhalla, the only gameplay mechanic that gives you a choice is you can mix different drinks for the characters, but even doing that gets you different dialogue trees.
Yeah, but I had Doki Doki Literature Club suggested to me at one point during the course of the week.
Great game.
And I would suggest you play that. Like, I do think that eventually we should do Plus, and maybe you and Nate could both be on that one, but...
I would agree, because that's one that I would love to hear your opinion about on the show.
Yeah, I want to kind of wrap as many people into that one as possible. people whose opinions I care about, mind you.
Oh.
So not Jeff. He can go fuck himself.
It's also much shorter.
Sorry, Jeff. I just wanted to fuck with Jeff.
I also gonna try not to buy any more video games before the end of the year because I gotta end backlog golf on par at least. Like I just want to end it with a score of 0, which means I got 3 games to beat. Which those could be anything, so I might just chicken out and like just do a run of Mario 3 and be like, "Hey, I beat Mario 3."
Hey,
Well, guys, I don't want to rush this along too much more, but I think we did 2 hours with Nate and 2 hours on this one, and I would love Dalton to be able to get this edited before we have to before Halloween ends.
Yeah. So anyway,
Which Halloween is about like what, an hour?
yeah, I'll get this edited and out on Halloween. Don't worry about it. We got questions, and then we can get out of here.
Let's do it.
The first question comes in from Kana. This is for the Higurashi episode. Who is best girl? So who was your favorite girl? Mine, Rena.
I mean,
I loved Rena.
we're talking purely platonic, right? Because these are all
Yes.
We have to. They're all
have to,
16-year-old
yeah.
or less, so yeah.
I'm gonna say Satoko.
Satoko, interesting. I mean, she did grow on me over the course of the game. I hated her I literally wrote "she is the devil" in my notes when I first met her.
Yeah, but it's you see, again, I gotta bring it back around to teaching. It's usually the sassy kids that have a little bit of a bite and just break just enough rules. Those are the ones I end up getting along with.
Fair enough. And I kind of liked Mion for that similar reason, that she was the one that was willing to just spar with you verbally the whole time. Because, I felt like you were picking on most of the other ones. Mion would dish it out better than she took it.
Yeah. All right.
So that's my answers.
All right.
Also, I think we all liked Rika at least a little bit.
Yeah, but she didn't really stand out to me other than being, like, the level
I love
headed.
She was the chill one that it wouldn't have worked without her
Yeah,
being
no,
there,
she was the level-headed one, but she definitely didn't stand out. I think the only time she stood out was during the festival.
Rika was probably the one.
Yeah, and the fact that she stood out so little that she actually was the first character I got very suspicious of.
Yeah,
All right, then. This one comes in from Mikhailov.
that guy.
Which member of the TSMP crew is which classmate from Higurashi? Out of Willie, Mikhailov, Dalton, and Nate, who is Mion, Rika, Satoko, and Rena? I think I am probably Mion, because I think I am... Well, actually,
You're
no.
the
I think maybe...
leader.
Senpai. You're senpai?
I think
No,
maybe
he
Will-
is. He is senpai. He's the leader. He's the class representative.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about it at that. I was thinking just because she's an asshole.
Yeah, but Satoko's more of an asshole.
Yeah, Satoko's the prankster. I'm going to give that to you, Willie, because you are the jokester.
Am I?
I
guess that fits me better than the other two.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna give Rena to Mikhailov,
Why am I reading?
and I'm gonna because you're so sweet and
Because
wholesome.
you're so cute.
Okay, I'll take it.
But
take
you're
it.
long-winded, and I will give that other one, Rika. I will give to Nate because usually you can ask Nate something and he will give you a straight answer.
Okay, that's fair.
Those are mine.
Long-winded.
I would have thought Nate
I
would
don't
be
mean that in a bad
Satoko
way.
just because he's been the most of a
No, I
tailwind in
know.
our
It
chat
just makes
lately.
me sound old. Although I am the oldest one on
Yeah.
the show, so I guess, I am pretty...
You're the one that keeps saying I'm a grandpa, and that's actually how she talks. She literally calls herself Oji-san.
Yeah, she says old man, yeah.
She calls herself old man and geezer all the
Yeah.
time.
But that's just because she's the oldest. Well, okay, I could be Mion.
It's a really fun affectation. I like that she talks
Yeah.
like that. Like
But she's...
that she has this big. She's like a Japanese rural stereotype too, where she's big, brash, and loud.
Yeah.
I said he was Rena though.
But you said
Yeah,
he's Rena?
no,
Yeah.
Dalton,
Oh, yeah, you're
Dalton
Mion.
is
Well,
Mion.
I'm Mion.
Shit.
Dalton is Mion because
Well-
he's the he's
So all of
the
that you just said
leader.
for me.
He's the leader.
No,
I'm Rena because
you don't
I'm,
get to be old man though. You're the youngest one.
I am.
I'm Rena because I'm apparently
oldest at heart.
cute.
I'm the only one with the terrible back at the moment. Give me the old man back.
You do have a pretty shitty back right now.
I do have a shitty back right now.
From carrying this fucking show.
For almost 5 years.
Let's go.
Yeah.
He
I disagree, but not enough to think about it for very long. But I think if I were to start, I would have made Mikhailov old man Mion, just because I think that they do say some funny stuff in
Well,
common.
then who does that make me, you, and Nate?
I think that makes me Rika and you the cute one, and Nate the little bitchy girl.
Fair enough. What about you, Mikhailov?
I was gonna say that I was gonna be Rika because I'm good at explaining stuff. Nate
Okay, so
was gonna be Rena because he's so cute.
oh,
Dalton
so
was gonna
cute.
be Mion because he's the leader, and Willie was gonna be Sakuto because he's a little shit.
I can't believe I got universally called the little shit here.
I said it because you were a jokester.
Well, at least I gave it to my little brother to be my vote. So, that shows Brotherhood is still alive and
Very
well.
much so.
I'm sure if Satoshi were here with us, we would have some other interesting questions.
All right.
Because then I would probably be the Satoshi and Nate would be the Satoko.
Speaking of Nate, your brother, my good sir, the next question is for Mikhailov. Why is Nate best boy?
Because it's his birthday, and I'm not going to talk shit about him until he's basked in his birthdayness, which I think he's already done, so fuck you, Nate. But
he's had 2 weeks now.
I think the statute of limitations is up, but you know what? I still have to send him his present, so...
Oh, hey, considering the last present you sent me was a real delight and got me back into retro achievements, I gotta say.
Yeah, the only reason I haven't sent it to poor Nate is because I just haven't had time to sit and get it ready for him.
It's all good, man. We all know that you're a very busy boy.
Too busy.
The fact that we're recording at 8 o'clock and we had to split this episode into 2 recordings.
And I started, nodding off slightly at around, 9:30.
You don't say.
I did that during the first half of the episode, dude. Dude, the first half, if you notice, I'm sorry, Dalton, I don't want you to blow up the spot or whatever, but when you and Nate are talking about the 2 games I didn't play, I was just kind of like, I could really use a semi-nap.
Yeah.
I only showed up to fucking shit talk.
We got 2
and this is
left.
why you're Sakato.
Yeah, you know what, that's absolutely valid.
Zing.
Although, isn't Keiichi the sleepy boy of the group? Maybe I should have been Keiichi. No one gets to be Keiichi?
There's no character sprite for him.
Yeah.
Damn! Really good callback. Really well done.
So
that is your joke of the episode. Gonna give that. I gotta give you that one. That was good.
we got 2 questions left. We're going to let Mikhailov go be a sleepy boy. So Adam wants to know, what keeps you engaged in a visual novel?
Not what this novel did. Give me interaction.
Stress. I think the main thing that gets me involved in a visual novel is the same thing that keeps me from playing them in the first place. I want to feel very stressed out about my decisions and overthink them way too much. That also means I don't enjoy playing them or starting them up. But when I'm actually playing them, I'm like, oh shit, this is a big deal.
My answer would be story. Story and characters. Because I was not bothered by this not having any interaction at all by the end of it. It was it would have been cool, yeah, but am I happy with the story? Yes. Do I want to read more of them? Yes. Will I probably report back when I do read more of them and give you guys more of the story if you want? Yes, I will.
Yeah, talk to us about Higurashi the same way I talk about Pinball and Doom Lodge.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's the thing.
Or when I say Higurashi, I mean when they cry, because there's several.
Here's the thing about this game. I wanted to walk across this town. I wanted to talk to the people. I wanted to interact and make choices and have, I mean, not necessarily romance options, but maybe max friendship options. I wanted to almost have, I was going to...
There was a real sense of space there.
I was going to say
really do agree with what you're
more
saying.
like Yakuza, but
I do think that there's such a good sense of space that, even the game subtitle says, welcome to Hinamizawa, and I keep saying the name of the town.
Yeah,
wrong,
no,
but...
I wanted to actually walk around and experience things a little bit more. Just the pictures and the sprites were fine for dialogue options, and I think I would have been fine with that if they were just cutscenes of a bit of a bigger game, but... Yeah, no, I wanted to be Keiichi. I wanted to walk around and do things as him. One of the mini games could have been practicing your bat swing, and I wanted to actually honestly those card games that they were playing. That could have been a game mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I fully agree with that as well. That that's something I definitely thought was, hey, you haven't let me play the game, and now my character's playing a game. Please let me play the game.
And then, even in the later chapters, they could have introduced some visual effects to make it clear that Keiichi was kind of losing his mind, or he was under the effects of something. I
would have loved a say yes or say no choice a couple times in this game. That's all I'm saying.
But even I don't know, RDR2, didn't they do something, or even Cyberpunk, do something where there was a visual effect to show that the character was getting worse as the story progressed?
Well, yeah, but that's a giveaway. This whole game is a mystery. If it gave
That's
that all
true.
away to you, that would ruin it.
That's true. But
although I do love the R2 drunk effect, where even the UI is scrambling the text. That's very funny.
Fair. Yeah, that's true. But they did do visual effects in the pictures and everything to show moments like that, though. So they could have done something if this were a more interactive game. Like when all they did was like do like a reversal of the color palette, or they turned the whole thing red. Like there were moments.
Yeah, but that was more like a stark realization type thing. Instead of
I'm also worried that a game dev that we don't know very well for gameplay yet would have been like, okay, the screen turned yellow, now play Breakout for 3 minutes.
Fair.
All right. Our last question, boys, comes in from Mr. Puzzles, old Dane. How desperately do you need someone to destroy your hard drive in the event of your untimely death?
Just one. Not the main hard drive. One of the extra externals. That's it. Just one.
Yeah, I would say that my hard drives are pretty explainable for the most part.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of weird shit on mine. Like, there's some, like, nudies that I've gotten from over the years, but, like, nothing of it is bad, so...
Yeah, that's exactly what
people
I meant
know
too.
I'm a pervert. What the fuck do I care?
I mean, I don't have anything bad on mine either. I just, my curated stuff is for my eyes only, and I don't think I want anyone else seeing that down the line, especially my son.
Yeah, I get you.
Well, no, and here's the thing, and not to get too dirty, it's like, but when my dad died, we're cleaning out the house, we found his porn stash. And I learned things about Dad that I did not need to know, especially because he was fucking my mom.
Mikhailov,
was he?
Well,
did I ever tell you?
Good for him, man. That makes several of us.
He did it at least twice.
That's what my dad always says. He's like, man, I'll tell you, man, me and your mom, we had sex once. We had you, and that's it. Dude, did I ever tell you when I was doing property preservation, Mick?
Put a stork in your mom's pussy.
Like, Willie, you might have heard this story before.
Why was this episode so clean until I said that?
But
I mean, I didn't hear it because you mumbled it, so.
Oh, I said, I put a stork in your mom's pussy.
So anyway, this house that I was working in.
Just ignore that.
When we were doing property preservation, one of the houses we had to go in and clean up was full. Like, you would have thought P. Diddy lived there. It was full of sex toys, Bibles, and ebony anal porn. Everywhere.
Very specific.
Dude, there were...
Yeah, I like that you know what you want there. That's very good.
So, there was just plugs, dildos, just strewn about in the bedroom. All over the house were Bibles everywhere. And then just DVDs of, black girls getting banged in the booty. Like, me and Wes were like, this is some surreal shit. Like, we need to know what kind of dude this was. Was this like a pastor who was just really into anal porn for some reason? Like, what is going on?
Ooh, maybe it's that religious loophole idea. You know what? I don't want to get too deep into this.
Go down this rabbit hole.
They call it soaking.
So,
what hole would you like to go down, Mick? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's wrap this.
Yeah, I was going to tell a story, but I'm not going to now.
You can if you want, but I apologize for being a bad boy.
No, let's clean house, especially because there's allegedly porn in that house.
Didn't you do house cleaning on the first half, or?
I don't believe so. I think I just rolled it right into this one.
Okay, let's go then.
iTunes, Spotify, leave us a review, por favor, if you will. It really helps us in the algorithm. Discord, come join in on the shenanigans. Chat with us all. bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all capital letters. Check out the website, bit.ly/The Steam Machine Podcast. Patreon, you want to donate money to the show? It really helps me out a lot because I'm looking for work at the moment. It benefits the show. It helps. It helps us get games, things like that. Patreon.com/The Steam Machine Podcast. $1 or more a month gets you the episodes early and ad-free. If you donate $10, and the extra bonus stuff at the beginning. If, though, you donate $10 or more, get your name read on each and every episode like these wonderful, wonderful people. Nate Sir Cogsworth, the 7th of June-iper, Jeff, the original Expendable, Mr. Syllables, old Jeffy Lube, Ariesoradam. Shout out to his revived podcast, Revival and Extinction, whenever he decides to pull that out. He should call it Revive and Extinction again. Team Retro, go check him out.
Revive, extinct, revive again.
Team Retro, go check him out over on YouTube. I'll let him plug his stuff in just a second. Mr. Puzzles, Dane himself, Chad the Mad Lad, no goddamn seeing his last name Shaffer, Flyin, Brian, Doran Gray, and then welcome to the party, the RPG Wolverine, Logan Joreid. Thank you very, very much.
All right.
We do appreciate you. And yeah, shout out JRPG Report.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, very much, dude. Shout out to JRPG Report, bi-weekly JRPG news show. I think that's about it. Mikhailov, plug your YouTube stuff for me, my good sir.
Team Retrogue on everything.
And your podcast?
Seeing you on Twitter talking about some cheapo controllers. It sounds good.
Our podcast, which is not going to have an episode out for Halloween like I originally wanted to. We played a game. Nefarious has me playing Fatal Frame.
Yeah. Oh, I bet you're fucking loving that. I bet
have not
you are
started
just
yet,
loving it.
and I don't think I want to.
I love that the central mechanic of Fatal Frame means you need to put the ghost as central in the screen as possible. That is such a brilliant move.
Oh man, good on Nefarious for throwing you into that. Like he is,
Yeah.
and you were like worried about me throwing something
Got the
horror
spooky
related at you.
jacuzzi.
No, like, Higurashi is tame compared to what I'm about to do for We Play the Game.
Yeah, dude, Fatal Frame. Although it's a lot of jump scares, you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
I don't want to.
At least he didn't throw you into something like Visceral.
Silent Hill.
Yeah,
He
like
wants me to
Silent Hill.
play Resident Evil, and I won't.
Oh, if you play the OGs, you'll be fine.
So, no, the only survival horror game I've ever played was Dino Crisis on the PS1, and I actually really enjoyed that one.
So Resident Evil.
You know what? Survival.
Oh, I was gonna say Resident Evil basically the same as Dino Crisis. Swap dinosaurs for zombies.
I would say you'd probably get a lot out of Parasite Eve 2, which has a more survival horror vibe than the first
I actually
one.
beat
The first one was more of an
I
RPG.
beat Parasite Eve 1, and I really enjoyed that game.
The second one's more tank controls, more survival horror, but I really liked Parasite Eve 1 too. I actually played 2 first and went back to 1, so I'm telling you, it's not that bad because it made me want to play the other one.
Fair?
Well then, boys, this brings an end to the Spooktober episode.
Thank you for listening to Higurashi When They Podcast.
Yes, When the Cicadas podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. I can't fucking wait. Until then, everybody, keep it spooky.